get a vision statement in place. Once that vision statement is in place, we want to become part of the Oregon Main Street program, which is second quarter. And that'll take us to the end of June. And I think you'll see quite a bit of growth in promoting the downtown in the next 6 months. So I'm just asking that this get approved, and we are going to go out and ask for grants that will continue the funding of the LDA. I don't expect to have to ask the council again.
Are there any council questions?
Do we not have an official grant request form anymore?
Councilor Grevin, you might be thinking about the city's grant process for nonprofits that we solicit, local nonprofits that serve Lafayette in March, and that gets put in the budget. And then the council requires any of those funders to be here in July for that process. I think we budget last year was about 8,000 for that. Council can give a little more or less. Those are nonprofits that the city doesn't rely on, but they serve this community. This is a grant that's actually a service that benefits the city. It's not intended to be part of that process. You can provide a grant during the year for reasons that come up for any other things like this, like the council has done in many other cases. So this grant, doesn't fit in that other process. Certain nonprofits the city gives money to every year are in our budget. They don't go through that normal process of other nonprofits that just serve Lafayette citizens. I'm talking about like CERT, the YCTA. Those get funded grants from the city. They're in our budget every year. And I would consider this request from LDA to be right alongside with those kinds of services that the city benefits from.
So we don't have just a general application for any. My thought is if we've got one application and let's use it for any grant requests, whether it's in March or any time of the year. It just keeps things consistent for the council to review and approve or not. So was it November we talked about this last?
Mhm.
And to be fair, in November, we instructed Larry to come back with us with
Yeah.
a grant proposal.
No,
We didn't
I get that.
specify a specific form.
So we instructed the Downtown Business
Yes.
Association to
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed that we don't have anybody that's active as a volunteer from that coming. My point for that is, Larry, you've been with us this whole process. You were here before the creation. I think it was appropriate before it was created to say, hey, I want to help, form this. It's been created long enough now for us to continue throwing this much money at it. It'd be nice if we knew how much we'd already spent on it, but I don't see that figure here. To have some support for the people that you're working with, consulting with, to say, yeah, we really need Larry to help us do this. Because now that they're formed, I mean, you could walk away and there's still that. Whether it's successful or not is still to be seen. But the only word that I have right now is yours, and I really was hoping to get some input from other people.
Tara, this is from Tara, our president.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on
She's
the
been
20
here previously.
The whole board has been here several times. Come on the 23rd, and you will see the entire board. You will see people. I'm hoping to get at least 20-25 people. And on Tuesday, Claudia is going to be here, and she and I are going to be in front of Abastos and Martha's, and we're going to be handing out flyers to anyone who comes in and out of those organizations. I would like the council to get some flyers and people. What we're going to talk about is what you want this town to look like going forward. That's the whole subject. So I called Tara from Hermiston and I said, I'm not sure I'm going to be there by 6:30, and I haven't heard back from her. I think she's ill. Norm's out of town. I could have had Adam come here. I don't know why that would make a difference.
I think for me, it's that there's somebody besides you advocating for your services.
I guarantee you the board is on my side. And my training of the board of Terra is for to take over this role in July.
So help me clarify something that was said earlier. You said that after July, you would continue to seek grants for
No, I'm
for
going
this
to
work.
continue to see grants start tomorrow. Once this is approved.
To seek grants to cover the cost of your consulting or to just help?
No, not to cover my consulting, to cover putting banners on Third Street. Some of the physical improvements we can make downtown. I met with Kit Johnston, our new county commissioner, about doing that, and I've delayed sending in my request because I want this to be approved first. But I'm going to start. Well, I have started. I have a request to the county for $50,000. And I mentioned this in November. They have $500,000 in economic development funds that are available. And I think we can petition Mary and Kit to approve that. And that's not going to go to me. It's going to go to physical downtown development. And Sedgwick will be coming to our meeting. And I'm hoping Brandon comes to our meeting, and we put together a coalition of people to make this town better than it is. I don't know how many percentage points we can put to that, but we're going to see a difference. And we want that difference to come from the people.
So can I ask quickly, reading this grant request, and since there is no one here from the association, which I too feel as Councilor Drebin, it really shows their intent that we're this far into it and it's still you presenting tonight. So I do have to ask you straight on. This is written where, do I read this correctly, that this $11,600 is to pay your consultant fees and these are the action items you're working on?
It's to pay my consultant fees plus have a kitty to do fees and events. We want to be a big part of.
So how much of this is your consultant fee?
$1,700 a month. It's half of what I bill my other clients.
Okay. So how many hours of work are they getting for $1,700 a month?
The contract I've had with the city in the past has been 5 hours a week, an hour a day. And I'm currently putting in about 3 times that. So I'm not billing for any excess hours.
Okay, but so it's for 5 hours a week?
Yes.
So 22-ish hours a month?
Yeah.
At $1,700.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I currently bill my for-profit clients at $125.
Okay.
This is a little bit less than 80.
Um,
And we've been doing this for 3 years now. Well, we had a
Well, it was caused.
we had a COVID gap. We had a COVID gap. But this next month is key to getting this town together to start this formal process of involving them.
so if this did not go through tonight, I'm just playing both sides and everything. What happened to that dinner that you're saying is,
The dinner will happen on July 23rd.
okay,
January 23rd.
I mean, January 23rd.
Yeah. but you're saying that this is all key moving forward, that this funding,
Does the council want me to be part of this process and continue it or not? And
So
that's the question.
that's what we're
So I
asking
have a
now.
question. Yeah, one question and then, so you said that come July 1st, you're no longer going to be charging a fee, you're going to be volunteering your time, is that what I understand?
I would like to join the board as of July 1st. And change my role from consultant to board member. The board member is volunteer.
Elections aren't until July 1st, is that why it's July 1st? I'm trying to understand why you're willing to volunteer in 5.5 months. But it's such an important thing that consultants.
Because I have a 6-month program that, our volunteers spend a few hours a month. The work that needs to be done in the next 6 months requires an investment of time on my part. And I have a program that I want us to get this RDI work, get another grant from the Ford Family Foundation to continue RDI working with SEDCOR, which will get us into the Main Street program, put a plan together, and then I've done what I want to. I think that's a big deal.
Okay,
I have a question.
let's finish council questions, then we can move on to audience questions.
It seems like a while back, I saw a list of projects and that is of the organization. I don't recall everything that was on there, but it appears that most of the monies that are being asked for and spent is to develop the infrastructure of the organization. And my question is, has anything been accomplished that's tangible for the city to get their arms around? Such as, I don't know, banners,
Well, we have that list.
landscaping or.
That list was submitted to the state for funding in last fiscal year through Ron Noble. And the reason I got that we didn't get that funded was because of the $2.5 million that was given to Lafayette for the water treatment facility. So yeah, that list is when I say I'm going out for grants, that's what we're going to ask for. When I met with Casey and Kit Johnston for the Yamhill County grant, it's going to be for the banners, sidewalk, mural, things that you can visibly see. But that list still exists.
Okay, there is a substantial difference in a grant request and a grant that's been awarded. Okay, the percentages really skewed towards rejection. Okay, I've written hundreds of grants and dealt with all of Washington and all of Oregon in grantors. Okay, and we as a body can't go to the bank on a proposal or a plan to address a particular foundation, because of those statistics.
So we are funded right now by the Ford Family Foundation.
That's what, the $5,000?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's not a commitment, but there's a reasonable assessment that we will get an additional funding to continue the work we're doing with RDI because they have a pretty good relationship.
Okay. Now the proposal for the $50,000. Okay, quite often, what gets awarded is something less.
What Kit Johnston said, prioritize your request by item.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we get the top 1 and 2, we don't get 3 to 6, that's fine.
Sure.
And there's SEDCOR with Abbott Stone is going to be working with us to get state funding.
Okay.
And I have some other contacts. So yeah, it's a pot shot. It's throwing at a target, but the more you ask, the more people you ask, the higher the probability you're going to get something. And I have a pretty good record in the past of getting monies. I've raised over $50 million for different projects. So what we're asking is
raise $1 million here.
yeah, but it's not in my pocket.
Yeah.
So, I have the board and I have a 6-month project that I think when we complete that, you will all be very happy with that. And then I want to continue doing that, but we're not going to ask the council for any more money. And I would like to continue, but it's up to the board to get me involved.
Sure.
Okay, so that's my pitch. So I, hope we can go forward together.
Sarah, did you have, or,
No.
okay, yeah, Sarah, did you?
I just had a clarifying question that on the council packet. The grant, I heard somebody quote something, 11,000, is that
Yeah,
11,000 something, and it's for services for you, right?
And there's a couple other $1,000 in there
things.
for other things we need.
But then I thought I just heard you say that you didn't submit something on our behalf because you were waiting to hear if this went through tonight.
That's for an additional grant to the county.
Oh, okay. That was clear, because I was
Which is
wondering if
sitting on my
you were
desk.
just not doing work, waiting to see if you got paid or not, you know, it's just,
No, it's sitting on my desk.
okay.
Any more questions or comments or?
I'll make one other comment, and that is that I think this body is important to Lafayette. And I support the objectives and the intent of the organization. But we have to be sensible about spending the money and ensuring that we get something for that investment. That's my approach. That's my concern. And I think, I can certainly be patient for another 6 months or so, and but I'm looking forward to, some tangible results that I can get my hands around.
Are you gonna be there on the 23rd?
Yep.
Okay, good. Because we're gonna create some tangible objectives. And then we're gonna sit down and figure out how to meet those objectives.
Well, isn't that kind of like the cart before the horse? You start with the
We're
objective.
working with a group that has done this. And their whole goal is revitalizing rural communities. And that's not my experience, but working with Kayla and Claudia is exciting because they're focusing on what we need. And they've done it before. So at the end of 6 months, we will issue a report. We'll sit down, but I'm not going to be asking, or they're not going to be asking you for the funding.
Your Honor, also, we haven't emphasized part of your objectives, but I think it's just vitally important that with a functioning downtown association, the door is open to solicit and do the street project, which is the Oregon component and a federal.
Which comes with
All the successful downtowns I know of are part of that program. That's a huge accomplishment.
Right.
And
the last meeting we had with RDI, Oregon Main Street Program, was on that call, a Zoom call.
so that will be great when that happens. Yes.
That's our second quarter objective. Thank you.
I have a comment to make.
Mhm.
To the council, try to help you understand where I'm coming from. It's really important to me that grant requesters are here to help us understand that they need the money. So don't get me wrong, I think the LDA is a great thing. The council, the city has supported it. I do believe that the city needs to support some more. But if we had the chair of association here tonight, we could say, if the city's willing to give you $11,600, is it better spent with consultant fees, or are there other things that it would be better used for? And we can't get that information the way it's come to us tonight.
The thing though is, it's not just consultant fees. Larry,
8,500 of it is.
Larry, but there's more that goes into it. Larry has built this. He's literally created this. He went door to door downtown to get people's input from the business owners. He literally created this. He's creating the structure to make it successful. So there is a lot more going into it than just applying for grants.
So I hear that, and I agree with you. But if, the grant request also says that the proposed scope of work is anticipated to be done by the end of June, that's less than 5 months away. We're over a year into this now, of providing funding. And if we can't have anybody show up to say, yes, this is important to us, this money could be well used, I need to wait till I hear that to be able to support that.
Well, I take it as they trust Larry. He's been the person who created this, who's put the structure together, representing them as a whole. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because there have been meetings also where Tara has been here present and other board members. But some of these board members are also the business owners.
Yes, I've seen her here, but she hasn't been able to speak to how would the money be best used. And that's all coming from one source. So, you know, if we need to delay this a month to get them in here and say, yes, this is really gonna help us, I'd be okay for that. I'm not ready
The way
to
of doing that without waiting a month.
have people show up to.
Um, So quick question, as I'm coming in on board, trying to, you know, make sure that I followed up and read everything. My understanding is November and December was funded to get them till today.
Mhm.
Is that what I understand,
Till the
Preston?
end of December.
Till the end of December. So what was and that was because we wanted to hear from them with a grant request, correct? Okay, and so now I'm hearing Councilor Drebin saying, I'm not getting to hear from them except for what's pre-written on this paper. I don't have a chance to talk to them specifically and have dialogue with them to understand more, correct?
Tara, I believe, is ill.
I understand.
She and I were supposed to be.
I understand that. Did she, this is just a broad question because you don't know the answer. I don't expect you to necessarily know the answer. If she was planning to be here and couldn't be here, I personally feel it would have been nice to hear from her, whether to the city or whoever, that she was intending to be here and isn't here. So all I can go off of is she's not here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
But did I hear correctly that she's the one that submitted this?
Yes.
She submitted the grant.
So this would be her request.
Yeah. So,
And her email to me was that right now she's in training.
mhm.
There's no way that we could do what we're saying we're gonna be doing without a consultant. Myself, and you know, as Kayla said, I put 3 years into this.
Mhm.
I put together the board of directors. I've gotten the grant out of the Ford Family Foundation. I've engaged RDI, I've engaged county, I've engaged SEDCOR. So I don't understand what and I can have Tara be here next month, and I know exactly what she's gonna say.
Okay. But that would be Tara saying it, not through
That's
you.
fine.
And that's what it sounds like the request is.
We get paid for January, I guess you can decide that, but I don't understand why. Yeah, I would like the support of the council, and I'm not sure I'm hearing that.
I'm gonna be honest, from me as a citizen and now mayor. I don't feel the support going this direction too. This meeting coming up, this dinner.
Dinner.
It's dinner provided
It's a
workshop. It was put on hold because originally it was gonna be a December date, correct? And you set the date knowing who the election results had come in. And I'm hearing it's important for you to be there. I had asked you a question before a council meeting saying, hey, this meeting, is it family? Is it and all I got was, oh, kids better not, and you really need to be there. And my thought was, what is this? I don't even know what this meeting is. And if, as the mayor, you really wanted me to be there,
Sure.
and you knew I was coming in as the mayor, the date wasn't even discussed with me. And so it's not that I don't support you. It's not that I'm anti-supporting you. I'm trying to play catch up and understand before we grant 11,000 plus more dollars, that we, as a half of a new council, are doing our due diligence to make sure we're understanding how important you are to the LDA and how important establishing the LDA is. And so that's why I'm allowing this long of a conversation going on.
But Hillary, the date was changed by RDI
Uh-huh.
from December 12th, where Kayla was gonna be on the East Coast. And then Christmas got in the way
Mhm.
of scheduling We want it to be on Monday because I want Arturo from Hamlin and Martha from Martha's Condos to be there. They're closed on Monday, they're work the rest of the week. And Alex from Bastos is gonna cater the event.
That's fine. I first found out about it, paying my water bill and seeing it on print that there was a meeting. And I'm just saying, I'm playing catch up.
Discussed at the
No.
meeting when it was discussed.
What?
You were present
You
at
were
the
here in
meeting.
November.
That it was gonna be on January something?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, this was back in November.
Okay. I missed that sitting there. I'm just saying, I didn't, as a citizen, at that point, I didn't know about it. I'm playing catch up on trying to
Karen was
understand.
here supporting me,
Mhm.
everybody would be happy.
I don't know, because we would be waiting for her answers.
So if Tara was here, I could say, what happens if we don't fund this? Or what happens if we fund half of this?
Mhm.
How is the functionality gonna be? What I'm hearing from you, Larry, is, well, it's a package deal. Do you want me or not?
I'm not saying that at all.
Well, that's kind of the,
I'm saying I have a program that's gonna take 6 months to accomplish.
I get that, but we're also nickel and diamond because the first grant request was for a lot less, but it only went for 6 months and then, again, we don't have the full amount. We've spent a lot of money on this.
We can do it quarterly if you want to, but I don't see the reason for that. We can approve it to the end of March and then we would have had the workshop and the result of the workshop to look at. If you want to do it that way, that's fine with me.
I'm gonna
It's
need,
just more work.
in order to be in favor of this, I'm gonna need to hear from somebody other than Larry, that I can ask questions. The rest of the council's free to
Do what you
vote.
want.
I'm stating that I'm not gonna be able to vote in favor of this right now.
If that's your
I'd like to
position, I would recommend that it be vote on paying him for 1 month's service and come back next month. But keep this going. There's a meeting scheduled. He's in the middle of applying for a significantly large grant that's gonna benefit the city because the city needs to grow. I don't think we need to shut the door down here, but if you want to hear from more people, that's what I'm
So
proposing
do
to
you
do.
want my entire board here in February?
Well, I think we need to, honestly, I think we need to be fair to you and tell you directly what we want, because my understanding in the November meeting was come back with us with a proposal grant, which is what you did. And now I'm hearing that we want more, which is fine.
It was the LDA to come back with the proposal grant, not Economic Advancement Group of Lafayette.
Yeah, but again, when he's
Well, the
representing
economic
them,
advancement
I don't see
group is
what the
And
issue
that's
is.
what I'm saying.
So, sorry, what I'm hearing is we asked for LDA to come back or to provide a grant, to request a grant.
Yes.
They did. They are not here for us to ask questions,
But their representative is.
but how do we know he's?
I'm on the board. He's the representative. He's literally creating.
No, I understand you're on the board, but nothing was submitted to us saying on behalf of the board, we are sending Larry to speak on our behalf, because to me, there's conflict where majority of this funding is going to pay for Larry.
Yeah. The majority.
Because
of the
Larry's
work
doing
that's
the
being
work.
done-
I'm not saying it's not a warranted paycheck.
But nobody.
I'm
else is
saying
showing-
requesting the funding for it.
Okay, may I jump in?
Yes.
This board is made up mostly of business owners
Mhm,
who have businesses that are literally open right now,
mhm.
okay? If we would have made it very clear it was important for them to be there, I'm sure they would be. I also think that we've spent an amount of money where Larry has told us this is the last time he's not asking for more money.
Mhm.
If it comes back and we don't remember that, there's no more money. We've spent enough in this. It's probably, especially since many people sitting at this table were elected on the idea of fixing downtown.
Yeah.
I think it makes very little sense to cut this off now.
Mhm.
We're close to the end. In 6 months, he's saying there's gonna be some results. I look forward to seeing it. If there's not, we lost. We made a bad call. We've spent a lot more money for a lot less pointless, for a lot more pointless things here. I think it's silly that we've discussed this long. We're kind of pot committed at this point with the money we put in. I would be almost certain if we made clear to the board, we needed them here to approve this, everyone would be here speaking for it. I don't think anybody else can do what Larry's doing because they're not professionals.
Mhm.
Certainly Larry wants to get paid. I would not be putting in months of work for free. That's just me and my professional realm. I think Larry's probably done more than he's contracted for at 5 hours a week. And that rate that you were, calculating per
Yeah.
hour has probably gotten lower and lower. I think we've wasted a lot of time on this conversation. I am completely in favor of this. We're so far in already.
I do not feel that we've wasted time. I think that understanding is important. For instance, I'll ask one more question. I know the answer to this because I already asked it to Preston. Preston, this amount of money that was being requested, when we as a city entered into the start of this with, and sorry, Larry, what's the name of your company?
Economic.
Economic Advancement Group. Were you expecting to be asked for more money as we moved along? Or was this, the beginning was, oh, we're gonna spend this much and we thought LDA would be on their feet?
No, since day one, I have been laying this out as a city commitment through the end of this fiscal year. The council has kind of broken it up because they want to learn more at certain times, this, that, and that's fine. But it's important not to abandon this process right now, but to see it through the end of this fiscal year.
Okay. I'm asking that question to make it clear that I'm not against them getting funding for Larry. My objective was the process, and that is that we had a counselor that wanted LDA here to discuss it. So thank you for that clarification that this isn't out of, the blue of an amount. If my recollection of conversation with you this past week was that there is money in the general fund that was expected to be used for this.
Yes, it's budgeted.
How much do we budget for this? Because if we spend so much over a certain amount, we have to go back to the budget committee and do a revised budget. So specifically, exactly, how much was budgeted for the services with Larry's group?
Yeah, well, it wasn't specific amount because we didn't know how much it was going to be until you get into it. The amount that Larry is asking for his monthly services is consistent. It's not changed since the beginning. So there is money in the budget. It's not, we're going to require supplemental budget or budget approval. If council wants to move forward with that tonight, you can, or next month.
So you're saying we didn't budget for this line item at all specifically?
Yes, we budgeted for downtown support. Yes.
How much did we budget for that?
And I'd have to look. It seems to me like it's around 50,000.
How much have we?
Facade grants?
It includes architectural services, facade grants, downtown consultant, yes. And that's not the only place where you can draw money from to support downtown.
Do you know how much we have funded LDA so much? I know that Councilor Gilligan has mentioned we were already so far in that to cancel it right now or just put a stop to it would, counteract all that.
I do, Your Honor, yes. This process in particular, at this rate of $1,700 a month, we have been going along those lines for 13 months. Prior to that, Larry was instrumental in doing a downtown survey. That was a much lesser amount, might even pre-pandemic, wasn't that? And that was the initial outreach to downtown to find out if there is interest and what people's visions are for downtown. And it was a lot of work. It was building relationships with those businesses that he hadn't already, because this goes back years to when even Larry was the business manager for Shemeka,
Okay.
working out the business.
So my question was specifically, how much have we, if you knew the amount that we have put into the Lafayette Downtown Association?
Well, you put in initially, the Downtown Association was formed in the middle of that.
Okay,
But it's 13 months times
Okay.
$1,700.
okay,
Which is, you know, in the world of consulting, that's not a lot of money for what we're trying to accomplish.
And so it sounds like we're going around and around in circles that everyone has everyone in the council had a chance to share what they, or questions that they needed. Okay,
Will the council feel better about this with cutting the amount that we would be awarding under the grant?
I just want you guys to be comfortable with whatever you're,
Are you saying that to them, they'll come back and
Yeah.
ask for more? So
So rather than awarding the full 11,600, you know, awarding half of it, awarding 1 month worth of it, if you want to hear from these people.
I don't think it's big enough,
I don't
Worry
disagree,
about
but I'm just,
you know, $11,000, okay. I think the objectives are worth that. There may be a risk. My biggest concern, if, you know, something happens to Larry, he becomes part of the drill work of a Mack truck. And is the strength and the abilities there on his board to keep the organization going. And I don't have that degree of confidence because, you know, we're not seeing the, you know, board members, you know. When you delegate so much to one person and continue to ask for money, it makes me a little uneasy. But I know Larry well enough, okay, I think, you know, that he's going to give it his best shot. Okay. And from that standpoint, that's about the best we could expect for $11,000. So I'm supportive of it.
okay, so I move to award a grant to the LBA in the amount of 11,600 for support services, January 2023 through June 2023.
before that's seconded.
Yeah.
Is it set, sorry, it's not arguing the amount. Currently, we're contracted, the city is contracted and is paying the checks.
mhm.
If we do it that way to the LDA, is that gonna mess things up?
I don't
With them.
believe so because of the way the organization is.
So they'll be able to pay you the LDA,
Yeah, we have a bank account
Okay.
for federal and
which
they'll
is,
submit an invoice and then
Okay.
LDA would pay me.
so step 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my.
I'll second Kayla's motion.
Okay, any more deliberations? Okay, all those in favor of granting the request to the Lafayette Downtown Association in the amount of $11,600 to cover the period of January 2023 through June of 2023, say aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
5-1, motion passes. Next up is, well, first, Preston, is there, I know we have people coming in to speak on different things, and I know the last 2 things went pretty long. Are we still, do you still support the order of that we're going in?
You do that.
Okay.
Keep going, yes.
Okay, hopefully this one will be quick. Action item 8C, which is resolution 2023-01, designation of check signing authority. Preston, the process of this is, do we need to read this out loud or what is?
I have a question before we know.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? We appoint president this time. I
Before you
don't,
appoint-
I think we had a president last time before we did.
Well, it just, the motion could be clarified a little bit so that it would reflect whoever you appoint next month as council president.
See, I won't do that because I don't know who will be appointed and I'm giving blank check authority to whoever gets it, whether or not I support it. So I can't vote on this as written.
Yeah, the only reason why I wrote it out that way is because you've got so much new council here and there's a lot of appointments and things to consider. Usually council president was one of your first actions in January, and you can certainly do that tonight. because it's an internal appointment. The council, you can establish who that is with a motion and then move forward to check sign authority, if you're prepared to do that.
So as part of saying, in order to move forward with this resolution, we need to first appoint a president. Is that what your concern is?
I think that's what makes sense, because anyone
Mhm.
here might have an idea that like, oh, I really don't want the league to sign checks. But they want to pass the motion.
Yeah.
But then next month, if Lee becomes president, I was like, oh, no, that guy. So like, it's contradictory.
Yeah, no, Michael, I had that same question, and I asked, I do know that this is also changing, that we have a new city admin. So we're running out of who can sign checks. Are our options that we could amend it where for now it's just the 3 and not the fill in the blank?
You can do that and then put it on the agenda
To add
next month. Yes, you can do that. Or and then you can decide who the council president is next month. And
Okay,
so, yeah, you could do that. It's kind of nice to get the signatories all lined up and not be pressured just 1 or 2 people and get it cleared with the bank and all that. Yeah, customarily, you would appoint council president in January.
okay.
Is that in our charter?
No, it's first quarter.
No,
Isn't it?
just as a routine matter of business, every January to determine the church sign.
I'm going to yield to Maurice because I know she's very knowledgeable in this.
I don't understand why you can't just elect a council president tonight and then
Yes,
pass this motion and then you're done.
I was just seeing our 2 options.
Because, you know, when you change a signature at the bank, you have to do it all for everybody. Then it would be another change for everybody in February. So I get it done.
Let's attempt. My suggestion is that we attempt to appoint our council president and then move into this. So as a side, I don't know what the official verbiage is of an add-on, that we're,
It's just part of this
okay,
item in a way. You can do 2 motions. It's all fine.
okay,
Typically, the council president is somebody that's been on the council.
okay. So officially, it could be any of the council members. Traditionally, it's been somebody who's been sitting prior
Correct.
because of.
Yeah. Between the mayor and the council president, that is basically your council leader.
Yeah.
The council president serves when the mayor is absent. And it's a very important role.
Okay.
And so you've got some great councilors that can fill that role. You bet.
Okay, so let's do a side discussion, hopefully quickly. Does everyone feel comfortable electing a council president tonight?
Yes, I don't see why not.
Okay, do we have any thoughts on who our council president?
Well, I think there needs to be a definition of what that role is. That any person that's being considered has got a clear understanding of what their role is and accountability.
And basically, the council president does, they're not, traditionally, they've been the other check signer along with the mayor. There's no concrete rule that that's required, but generally your council leadership is your check signing authority. The council president fills in when the mayor is incapacitated or absent. We've had a situation where the mayor position is vacant for a while. The council president steps in and is interim mayor until a new mayor is appointed. And that's an important leadership role. And during the course of the year, the council president can be part of a leadership discussion. It doesn't happen very often, but if the mayor were to have a special relationship with one of the councilors, it's generally the council president. Again, no hard and fast rule how you collaborate inside and outside the meetings, but for those of you that have been on the council, you're aware that Christine Brungart served that role as council president. The last probably 2 years at least.
So, Counselor Shaw, are you familiar with the charter?
Yes.
Okay, so, section 17 of the charter states that the president of the council at the first meeting of each odd numbered year, that there's an answer on that. The council shall elect a president from its membership. In the mayor's absence from the council meeting, the president shall reside over it whenever the mayor is unable to perform the functions of office. The president shall act as mayor. If the president acts as mayor or presides over a meeting, the president shall have a vote only in the case of a tie of a vote. So it's my understanding that the council president is there as a most, as part of the leadership team, but as a backup for the mayor being unavailable. And they would be temporarily not voting if they're acting in the capacity of the mayor's seat.
Right.
Okay, do we have any counselors interested in being council president? Or any counselors interested in somebody, asking somebody? I personally would prefer, or not prefer, but I see the insight of having a counselor that's been already sitting.
You've got the most experience, but.
No one wants to.
All eyes on Kayla and Lee.
Huh?
Good thing you're on here.
Okay.
Okay.
That you would put it the rock, paper, scissors, I think we should do Caleb.
Can the audience do that if nobody on the council wants?
No,
Well, I'll nominate Caleb Paulson for city council president.
Kayla, do you accept that nomination? Or are you interested? Okay. I nominate Councilor Gilligan specifically because I feel he and I have a little bit more interactive relation, business council citizen relationship going into this tonight. Nothing against Councilor Paulson. But it's up to you guys to motion
Are either of you interested?
yeah, I guess. Council Gilligan, are you interested at all?
I will allow my hat in the ring so you all can decide.
Well, you could nominate Kayla Paulson, then that's obvious then.
She's already been nominated.
I know, but you can-
will decide. So.
You can affirm that. Okay. And then one feel comfortable. I'm supportive of either of you guys, quite honestly. So if somebody wants to make a motion,
There's already a motion on the
okay,
If I say I second Caleb's nomination.
any more deliberations on that? Okay, so we are voting on appointing Councilor Paulson as the council president for the city of Lafayette for the 2023-24 years.
It's
Through
basically a
the
2-year
next-
term,
yeah.
Unless you want to change it.
Nope, okay. All in favor?
I,
All opposed? Motion moves unanimously. Okay. Take some pictures, we can. Okay, so now that we have a council president, this would be, the fill in the blank would be Kayla Paulson, correct?
Yes, Caleb Paulson and.
Okay, so I'll go back to my original question, Preston. What is the order of, do we have to read out this whole resolution? Or is it
No.
with
you don't
the
have to.
amendment of adding
No.
Kayla Paulson?
You just make that part of your motion, the approved resolution with the
Okay.
addition of Caleb Paulson.
So we don't have to.
any questions or can I read this?
I don't have, just read it.
I move to approve resolution 2023-01, authorizing Mayor Hillary Malcolmson, Councilor Caleb Olson, City Administrator Brandon Dross, and Assistant City Administrator Kevin Perkins to sign checks on the city's behalf.
I second the motion.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay. Those in favor of approving resolution 2023-01, authorizing the people stated in the motion to sign checks?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Yeah, thank David.
Very nice, okay, well, the bank will love that. Makes it real nice and clean and one time.
Yes,
Quick question, just because we were voting on like new business. We've got the urban renewal districts that we're gonna have to meet. I know it's not related to any of this. Is that? Do we have to do voting for that at next month meeting?
Because last time I think you and I were.
Yeah,
so now we have to,
so
okay,
when is the next meeting of that supposed to be for? I guess since we're still on it, it was.
I don't know.
The urban renewal would be part of the budget process. Along with the city's budget, you would pass an urban renewal budget also.
So we don't have to meet until then.
Correct.
Around April.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to meet separately as a board, but you would have to approve the budget for next year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we did last.
Right, it's just like a separate, yeah.
okay. Okay, let's move on to 8D, the proposal for wastewater support services and supervision. Is there a staff report or explanation that you would like to share, Preston?
Yeah, Your Honor, you bet. So we do, we do have our consultant. Tim, can I ask you to bring my shirt?
Yes, because I was about to address you as,
We got a consultant.
I kept warm down over there. Well, thank you.
no, you get to join us.
And so Mark Walter is currently our designated supervisor.
Okay.
And what you have before you tonight is a proposal for a year's worth of technical services, which includes 6 months of utilizing his level 3 requirement. And as I mentioned in the staff report, the city must have a level 3 on staff or as a designated supervisor arrangement, like through a contract. And this proposal here has an alternative. I mentioned on the staff report here. It talks about an alternative. If you didn't, if we didn't move in this direction, we would need to hire someone with a level 3. And in and of itself, that's a good thing, but it's not practical. You're going out and hiring, we want to hire level 3, you're gonna jump in with 20 other cities, and it's not practical. But it is the alternative. Eventually, if Mark does a good job, he works himself out of being our consultant. And believe me, that is his intent. And that is what we're working toward. We don't want to keep Mark Walter on staff any longer than we have to. No offense, Mark. You're a wonderful guy. And you're doing a great job for us. But the idea of hiring staff, yes. And when your new administrator, Brandon Ross, looked at this, I was very impressed that he says, well, what we might need to look at here is like a public works superintendent that can oversee water and wastewater. It's part of the whole profile of managing a growing community. And have somebody as a level 3 operator that wants to move up into a management position, it just might attract somebody for this job. We're not asking for funding tonight for a new position, but I just point out that that is a direction that very well could be part of the reorganization and the hiring of staff that that Brandon Ross might bring forward to the budget committee. But in the meantime, we have to keep Mark Walter on board as our consultant. Did we do an RFP? No, we did more than an RFP. For 3 months, we scoured everyone we could and agencies to find somebody like Mark that can come in. And I'm not talking just about any level 3 out there. It's going to sober up just enough to come in and sign reports once a month. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about somebody that knows what they're doing, that's extremely qualified, that can come in, train our staff, put in good processes, recommend equipment and staff. Mark's his wealth of experience, his knowledge of people at DEQ. He's already hosted multiple people from DEQ coming, and so it's really important that we keep Mark on board as staff. So let me also say that you might remember I mentioned to the council multiple times that our treatment level was increased from a level 2, which we operated under for 17 years. It was changed to a level 3, and this is a big deal. It takes a lot of equipment to processes, a lot of investment. We've got an older plant. We've been replacing equipment like crazy. We've been really blessed that ARPA funds come into our community, budget committee and the council's approval to spend those monies. And some of your highest priorities to consider next month in your budget discussion with the committee and all is to allocate the unallocated ARPA monies. The couple of top priorities are more wastewater projects. So trying to meet the level 3 compliance requirements are tough. We've had difficulty meeting them. DEQ realizes it's difficult. They are very pleased with where we're at. What our staff and what our consultants have been able to accomplish here over the last 12 years, keeping the plant going and again, not raising rates. In fact, it's been 15 years since the council raised rates last July. In fact, over time, those rates went down. So we've operated within our budgetary confines, and but meeting the new compliance requirements are tough. Mark has really helped in that regard. The last inspections we have, DEQ has been very pleased. And part of Mark's work here, and it came up earlier in the discussion, I think under non-agenda, one of the great benefits of this is Mark training our existing water treatment plant operator. You can go to a short school and learn what Mark teaches on the job. There's few people out there that can do that. And so this is invaluable. And eventually Mark will help our treatment plant operator, Ron Lane, in gaining his level 3. Half of the cost of this is utilizing Mark's level 3. If we had that on staff, we wouldn't have to pay that fee.
Is Ron interested in doing that?
You bet
Okay.
he is.
How long is it
He's
gonna
a level
take him
2.
to become a level 3?
Well, it takes passing a test
Have
through
an
the state.
approximate time frame? We have an approximate time frame?
Well, you can take the test, I think, a couple times a year.
Yeah, I think it's more about DEQ scheduling. So the tests are applied via computer remotely, right? So, they're easily accessed where you don't have to travel for the test. But there is a time period. I think he just took the test maybe a couple months ago. So, he's probably in line to take it in the next month or 2.
Is it because he failed the first test?
It's a pass fail.
Yeah.
And yes, you did.
It's a pretty extensive test.
So it's not abnormal for somebody as they're obtaining it
Currently,
possibly.
yeah, currently the state of Oregon, I think, has probably about a 60 to 70% fail or not pass rate.
Okay, so it's not, it would not anything against him, but it wasn't out of the blue, like, oh my gosh, how did this person fail it? So, okay,
Yeah.
keep moving forward.
And so if he's gonna obtain his level 3, how does that tie in with Brendan's recommendation of possibly looking at hiring an additional person to handle the management role?
Well, it can fold in and be very complementary. But
Would it be necessary for Ron to obtain his level 3 then?
yes, we want our treatment plant operator to do that, and Ron would love to do that. Yes, that makes him a more valuable employee. He gets compensated accordingly.
And it keeps us with an extra person that has it
Correct.
for when,
Correct. Yeah.
if someone,
Is it true that a level 2 facility requires 2 people? Or it's recommended that 2 people be on staff, and I'm wondering, we have 1 currently, okay? And if we're at a level 3, what is recommended for staffing for level 3 operation?
Yeah, so as a permittee, right? So your treatment plant is permitted with a federal permit to discharge into the Yamhill River. So how you do that is up to you. So, you want to have best practices. You do want to have more than 1 person, right? So the other person can take vacation, or if they have other things in life, they take them away, you have a backup. So there's no real hard and fast rule that says, if you have a grade level 2 facility, you need to have 2 people. If you have a grade level 3, et cetera. But up the road, in McMinnville, it's a grade level 4 plant. They probably have 8 or 10 operators there. But they're facing the same thing as people retire. There's gaps in getting those certifications refilled.
Okay, how much of the your consulting services are currently being handled by the current operator? And we're talking
I would say
about
0. Yeah, so my current services are so in the system supervisor role that I'm currently in, I'm overseeing the operation of the facility, working with the operator to develop work plans, process control, things like that.
Hasn't Ron been doing that
Oh,
for a long time?
I would say yes, and he's been doing a great job.
Okay.
Yeah, but he doesn't fill the role of being certified at the required grade level.
Right.
So that's the.
Well, this amount, $83,000 is a big chunk of money.
Absolutely.
So my question is, okay, is Ron doing a certain percentage of what you would be doing for the $83,000?
Well, yeah, so I guess if you want to go through the proposal, so the system supervisor fee includes me taking on the responsibility and the risk to being the system supervisor. So Ron's not doing that. So, and then the other half is to review the operation of the facility. So that should be able to affect putting in new programs to ensure permit compliance in the future. Every time you have a permit compliance excursion, you can get fined. And I think the city has had that experience, but those fines build up. So once you get fined, you have a record. So that multiplies, right? So taking a look at all the operational pieces. So that's like the second half. So there's about 40K in supervisor fees over, I think, 6 months.
Correct.
And then the other half is these tasks that include operational optimization, right? So that helps build programs to ensure compliance, make sure that you're DEQ compliant with everything that needs to be done. There's a task in here for operations or maintenance review. So that's like a condition assessment. The facility that you have down there is probably like a $30 to $50 million facility. All right. So, and it's 20 some years old. While you've been replacing motors and things like that. They're at or near the end of their useful life. So part of that is to prioritize that for you. I would say I'm probably more experienced than Ron in doing that. I do this exact same scope of work for a number of cities over the last 6 years, in addition to having 30 years in the sector as a utility manager. And then like the other piece, staffing plan. So it sounds like you're considering organizational change. So going through and right now, you have several people that are on call for the facility. As we speak here right now, something happens, they're going to respond. Not all those people have the training and experience that Ron has, right? So they'll call him. So how many people do you really need to have? And I think that speaks to your other question, right? About how many Rons do you need, and not that, right? It's having a qualified operator to the level that Ron's at right now. So this staffing plan would look at that. Do you need 2, 3? Can you mix that up with public works folks, right? And help like you are right now, right? And you also have a collection system, a sewer system that conveys all the sewage to the facility, and a number of pump stations that pump that water to that facility, right? So that needs to be taken care of. So there's a task in there for that. And then there's the training piece. So, yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I mean, there is a lot to that game. So,
Brendan had a comment. You can hear from him.
So I know this isn't an ideal dollar amount to spend, but in previous experiences and knowing how DEQ is getting more stringent on their requirements, I think the long-term goal is when we start talking budget for next year is we need to be able to have that superintendent or director that not only is going to be able to help us on the wastewater side, but on the water side as well. And then all this money coming in from BIL and Investment Job Acts, and also the reservoir, we're going to need somebody with this experience, but who also has that certification. So somebody may be wanting to make that jump to management, who's always been a foreman or a street supervisor, by giving them that title, but us really needing that level 3 on the wastewater, but also hopefully require them to have something on water, so we don't run into ourselves this situation and we're paying this dollar amount. So I think that's kind of the goals we need to start looking at for next year's budget. So I just wanted to kind of chime in on top of what Preston said and Mark said. So
you're saying that you understand that this is a lot of money.
yeah,
That long term, you're right, let's move towards, and one of the ways you see it is creating a position that fulfills that, but fulfills, proactively more.
Public works leadership as a whole.
Okay.
But it can also help with the reservoir. That's a multi-million-dollar project, looking at our wastewater system, but also having those certifications, and we're gonna stay on top of it, because right now we probably should have 2 people who are certified working, and Ron can't take off, for more than a week or so, if he still, God forbid, if he gets sick. We need to think about when we talk about succession planning. So this isn't an ideal dollar amount, but we need to think about, all right, let's do this, and then in 6 months, when we get the budget done, we got something right for 24 and 25.
Well, it sounds like the kind of timeline, it's fairly short that Ron could get his level 3. And if that's the case, then it might be much easier to attract a level 2 or below, so to help offload, and
one question that you have is, if even though Ron gets a level 3, is Ron an actual supervisor material? Because that's what you're talking about.
well, that would be up to.
yeah, and it's when we talk about.
No, but I'm just saying.
Just so we're clear, the system supervisor role is a designated title. It's not a title that will be in the city, right? So
Yeah,
you have to designate somebody as the system supervisor that has the correct credentials that meet DEQ's requirements, and they just happen to call it. And on the water side, it's designated responsible DRC. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, again, it's just vernacular. But having worked with him, I would say he's a very, very qualified operator. And just to speak to the, trying to attract grade twos or whatever, I would very much solicit that you try to grow it from within. The training program that I'm proposing is intended to train more than Ron, as many people as you can, keeping that inside with people who already live here, who already, enjoy.
Is there a current opening for an operator?
No, we are looking to fill a maintenance worker right now. That has no certification, so fill out our budgeted positions.
Is there a budget amount for another operator?
No, there isn't. It's not in the budget.
And that's why Brennan was saying we have to address that at the upcoming budget for the next fiscal year.
We will not have rolled that.
If it has to come in sooner, then that can be brought to council. But with all things working as we hope, it's very complimentary, and the budget process can fold in to meet our needs. In the meantime, Mark is our designated supervisor, and also as I mentioned in the staff report, the city's looking at updating the wastewater master plan next year. This is a big effort. You bring in a consultant, an engineer to get that going, and beginning to put things in place to where at some point our wastewater treatment facilities can be expanded to serve a population above 5,500. That's our current treatment plant's capacity. The build out of Meadowbrook will take us to about 5,000. The city still has room to infill and all to get to 5,500. But it's the city's responsibility to be good stewards of the system and have those plans in place for a future expansion. You don't commit anything to treatment plant expansion in the near term, but you gotta have a plan in place. And right now, our master plan has to be updated. And that effort's a big effort. My guess is probably going to be around $100,000. And we'll look at our master plan, start building the components for expansion, and Mark is going to help us with that. And so is our existing staff. So Mark comes in at a time when the city is transitioning in many ways. We've solved all the water problems that you need to worry about for the long term. Now the city needs to put their attention toward the wastewater side.
If I could just add,
Yeah.
I know, after listening to the other party, I know this is a chunk of change for y'all. When Preston talks about the facility plan and possible expansion, just in the short period of time that I've been involved with the facility, it's pretty underloaded. So the optimization piece that I'm working on or would be working on, and the maintenance and condition assessment piece. The condition assessment is part of a facility plan as according to the DEQ guidance, right? So, getting back to that, what they require versus what they recommend kind of stuff. But any consultant who comes in to do the facility plan will want a condition assessment. You'll have that done. If they start talking about, well, you need another treatment plant, we'll be doing an operational assessment to say, you're at 30% capacity, or whatever that number ends up being. If you're at 80%, well, then maybe that does, maybe you should look at a new plant. But if you're if you're less than half capacity, these ratings, especially for treatment plants, and I have a bit of history of going way back with Lafayette, with the old treatment plant, where you got the grants for the low flush toilets, low flush dishwashers, and it created such a strong sewage that it overloaded the plant, right? So again, this facility so far is, from what I've seen, it's running about 500,000 gallons a day, and it's rated at 1.5 million gallons. So I haven't dug under the carpet a whole lot yet, but just right out of the gate, I wouldn't say, get ready to build a new, plan.
Sarah,
How long have you already been working with the city?
Since December.
Okay, since you know. Okay. I just wanted to clarify because I live right next to the sewer treatment plant. If you ever get the chance to hang out at Cherry Park during the summer, you should maybe picnic. Not really, because you can't go outside sometimes because it smells so bad. It is awful during the summer. I could not take my child outside. She's only 1.5. And I know for a fact that it was turned into DEQ this summer because it was so awful. So I'm glad to know that you weren't here then, because that was gonna be nice.
for someone, okay, where you going with that?
Unfortunately, we've
I
had
know Preston knows about this.
a series of equipment failure. And that was related to equipment. Unfortunately, we can't get equipment quickly these days. And so that one persisted way longer than it should have. But when operating correctly, like it is today, that doesn't mean we're gonna go and have equipment failures next year. We're actually proactively looking at what's gonna fail next. And with Mark's expertise and us replacing a lot of equipment the last few years, there'll be much less incidents of that.
I hope so.
It can't be avoided entirely, but it will get better. Yes.
I've lived there my whole life and I am 30. So this year was exceptionally bad. I'm not like one of those people who just moved near a sewer treatment plant and then decided it smelled awful.
You go back to the country and smell cows and complain about cows.
Like, I lived there my whole life, so it was definitely awful.
Yeah, so so when I do an operational optimization, develop programs, one of the first things we develop is an odor form, right? So that we have your name, your number, we take in the information, we get back to you,
Call anytime.
right? So exactly, because I've been doing this for over 35 years. My nose, my wife always asks if I can smell her perfume. Right, so again, having people that aren't in it all the time, it's pretty, pretty gamey stuff.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
So you've outlined the tasks pretty well here that you plan to do. I see about half of it is the system supervision as far as cost breakdown. And the other ones, it looks like are helping us on a good trajectory to get our plant running well. As far as your loading for, are you hoping to get the training and a bunch of the reviews done on the earlier side so that if Ron passes his test in a couple months, then you can say, all right, you don't need task 1 anymore and I've completed, most of these other ones? Or, are we gonna do task 1 until, May, June, and then start on them? What's your idea or?
Yes, great question. So what I typically do, right? So this is a estimated schedule subject to final coordination with the city. So that I just wrote that down what you said. I mean, that's a great observation, right? So I kind of just loaded the table just kind of based on my workload. If I don't even know yet, but I try not to overextend myself. I do this for a couple other folks. So, but yeah, I think front loading the training, right? Identifying, doing a training needs assessment, seeing what folks need, because I think there are a couple other people in public works that have kind of dabbled in it, and they're actually on call. Right, so, yeah, I think
you need to know what.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay. I know Ron's number right now.
Right.
They have my number, so, but yeah, to your point, yeah, that's really good.
Okay, and then, if say Ron did pass his test, would that task 1 kind of drop off where you say,
Absolutely.
hey, I don't need to do that, let me finish up these, loose ends?
And actually, yeah, exactly. So right now we have a working meeting every week. We talk sometimes in between. I come out here as needed, but that program, right, he's the number two. So if I leave, he becomes number one. He takes that and keeps going, right? So I think that would work pretty well.
Okay, so are you on call if Ron needs to call you at any time in the day? And that's part of what that super.
Exactly, yeah, and I have a backup listed as well. Andrew Grant, he's another grade 4 operator, kind of does what I do. He's down in Newport, so it's a little further drive, but yeah, so got my phone. Next thing I'll try, yeah, the sooner I can get him to pass,
Right.
the better off. Yeah, this is not my primary work. When a city comes and asks me to do that, I will typically do it because I know it's very, very hard right now to get qualified operators just because of all the retirement. So yeah, if I can get him to pass next month, I'm all on it. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And just to be clear, there's two components to this. There's the cert, which you're talking about right now, but then there's the services. Those services will continue. Even if Ron did get his level 3, the cert part goes away, but the services are still going to be needed. And this isn't a knee-jerk reaction. When we found out about Mark and brought him in, it really took him up of convincing him without begging to come to our plan. And he did a really good assessment and a walkthrough, met Ron, found out where we were, our history, and we are very grateful that he has taken us on as a client. And he had the room to do that. And I just want to emphasize again, we searched for 90 days. We had help from DEQ, help us find somebody. And it took 90 days to come up with Mark. And he doesn't advertise his services and this kind of thing. And I'm just very grateful that we're at this point, Mark, and where you brought us so far in just 2 months.
So last question, just because it was brought up during the citizen input, what would the DEQ fines be if we just said to heck with it?
So I think it comes, yeah, I can't like give you a number, right? But if you go, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars a day when you're violating the permit.
Okay.
And it's up to the Department of Justice to decide. And then again, they'll look back at if you've never had a traffic ticket,
Right.
no harm, no foul.
But if we're purposefully. Can be hard.
You had a chance to hire somebody and now you said no to spit in our face. Okay, here's the fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And we want to get all the other side work
Right.
done.
I have a question. So we're, getting Ron to level 3, getting him trained up. But we're gonna be training up the others as well. So we're not just Ron once you leave, right? So-
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not going to train the others to a level 3.
No, not a level 3.
They're
but
going to be
to
a 1, hopefully. Not
be
too
good
long.
support.
Yeah, we're still,
Because like you said, if something happens to Ron or he goes on an extended vacation
or he gets his level 3 and he gets a job somewhere else.
That's condition.
somebody that's,
That happens, yes.
and that one good thing to help people stay engaged is to keep them
training up.
training.
I think we had a
If
hand
I
raised.
could finish, though,
Yeah.
Councilor Nelson, the rest of the crew, they all help on the plan. And at times when they're on call, they're responsible to respond, monitor the plan. So a certain level of
But I heard you say call
knowledge.
Ron.
Yeah, you just, hey, this don't look like Ron. No, they, our folks that are on call, they know what to monitor, they know what to call in, they know to even be authorized to make adjustments. Same thing on the water side. So the entire crew will be trained to be qualified on-call responders at our plant.
And one of the trainings I went to, they recommended that we actually tour the plant. Is that something we can do?
You bet. We set up tours for council. We also, in the fall, nicer weather, we give you a tour up at our watershed. But the treatment plant definitely it can be organized for tours.
It's critical infrastructure.
You bet.
Mhm.
You bet.
I was
Thank
curious
you.
about that
Thanks for
too. Tim, did you have a question?
I not a question, but just comment
Yeah.
clarification. what Mark is doing, this is not any support for Mark or against Mark. But I think what needs to be clarified, Mark is certified in level 3 wastewater treatment. There's a different certification for wastewater collection. Is that, and you follow that framework behind when you talk water. Water 1, water 4, wastewater 1, wastewater 4, both. For water, it's treatment and distribution. For wastewater, it's collections and treatment.
Okay.
So just, there's more than just a piece of card that says I do wastewater treatment.
Right on,
So,
yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that because when somebody goes, oh, well, they're just gonna go to school and they'll get certified, there's a lot of different steps, and if you got wrong close, that's another ace up your sleeve, but just wanted to kind of clarify.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, and it is for lack of a better word, a burden on every city, right, to maintain those certifications. And it's a health and safety, environmental piece, right? So, yeah.
Greg.
Is Ron the only local resident in that wastewater areas? Who else lives in town? I know Ron lives in town.
Ron's the only other employee, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Now,
All of our public works folks have to be able to respond to the city. So they
Sure,
have to
but
live.
you're like 4 hours or less, I think is what I saw in the proposal.
Yeah, it took me 45 minutes to get here. But I give myself a cushion. Right?
All right, I understand that. So does the cable company. I get it.
Well, if you're responding to one issue and then you gotta drive to another issue, right?
Or
Kind of
severe winter.
I don't do this, like I said, the only system supervisor thing right now.
Okay, so Counselor Shaw, did you have a question?
yes, I do. You've done a really good job of outlining a lot of things here. And under the tasks, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How are you going to report these results, evaluations, and to who?
So there's, so in the front section under scope of work. So I try to put in the deliverables for each task. And then I typically will have some verbiage in here somewhere that says that I'll be reporting to whoever the city assigns as the project manager, which in this case would be the city administrator. So that.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, if there's additional questions on the deliverables, but yeah, that's definitely something I try to include in all my, I do it in all my proposals.
And the only reason I ask that is quite often in organizations, we wind up with organizational amnesia, because things get lost.
Absolutely.
Because of new people or new processes and procedures, and without a record, you can't fall back on it.
Absolutely, right.
That's my concern.
Absolutely. So I all my deliverables are typically in the form of Microsoft Office suite items, Excel, Word, so PDFs. So it's we'll make sure we do that.
My question real quick is, as a contract, as we're talking about trying to move forward and creating a new position possibly in 6 months, budgeting and stuff. And then we're invoicing monthly. So is this a contract that we can end earlier than a year if we hire or?
I think it goes through is it June 30th or July 31st? That was the
July
Sorry.
31st, I think, yeah, so 6 months on the supervision piece. And again, and then the rest of the tasks, trying to capture your question.
So how many months is $83,000 getting us?
Up to the.
Or up to?
So he's outlined the tasks. The first one is really the one that takes the whole time. The other ones are kind of while he's doing the supervision role, then he's also working to get us on a better track. Once his supervision is no longer required.
Yeah, I would say, prior to, July 1st, 2023, these other tasks, at least the way I've got it set up now, would be complete. So
Okay, because on page 3 of your report, it says, you know, February 1st through July 31st is total estimated cost 39,000. So that's why I was asking how long.
yeah,
83.
yeah, he pointed out, so I tried to put this table. I should just put them all in one, but I put this table in here just because task 1 is a separate, like, supervision
Okay.
task. But if you go to the,
So this is and then it gets put into,
yeah, exactly.
okay, thank you.
My only question. Brandon, are you in support of this? Do you have any issues with this?
What's your recommendation?
Going forward, you're not quite the only head honcho, but starting in February, do you have any concerns that the council, should hear before we make a decision?
Not to put you on the spot.
Not-
No, he likes it.
No, I know Spencer's been working on this, so I'm not, this month I'm just observing and learning. I do think it is imperative that, this is, I think we all know, including Preston, this is a lot of money. And there are concerns with that, but I do know that this is setting a precedent that we need to get somebody in because like Mr. Greg had mentioned, he can get that level 3 and then go somewhere else. We need to have numerous people ready to go. We need to have somebody who we know is going to be able to have this continue on the certifications because not like he had said, it's going to be water distribution, it's water treatment, it's going to be all that stuff that we need to make sure these people have, and it's only going to get more and more mandates at the state level, and it's only going to increase more. So I think these are things we need to work about. It is a costly thing, but I support it, but we as soon as we can, we start looking at.
So it gives us something to go, look, this is what we're paying for. How do we work our way to being self?
And I don't think you want to give Brandon the gift of non-compliance.
I'll go return it.
And that raises a question.
Yes.
Okay, when it comes to DEQ and non-compliance, we're potentially talking about, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even more. Would you be providing, or is there a mechanism of communicating a potential for DEQ to slap a fine or some sort of citation so that all those that have got a stake in the process is informed before the axe falls?
Absolutely. So, there's monthly reporting that's done at the facility level. And so, so you'll know like every month. There's reporting requirements. So we had a failure, I don't know, last week of the UV system. So anytime you're out of compliance, you're required to send a notice of non-compliance to DEQ. Those could be, distributed or whatever. So that's one way. When you get to like the DEQ level, what they typically will do, and I'm not completely versed in all of your history right now, but typically if you get a couple of violations, they send you a warning letter. And you might get a second warning.
Well, my concern is not getting any information or seeing those warning letters where that the council or Brandon can be proactive about the solutions and the fixes.
Absolutely.
And
So we know that what's coming at us.
yeah, and I think the last fine was what, $5,000?
About $5,100, correct?
Yeah, and I'm not sure anybody knew that was coming.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
Council was informed. We were actually put on notice by DEQ of being out of compliance for 17 years. And potential fines were well over 200,000. And we worked earnestly for 18 months to not only argue against that, but to do some projects that they wanted to see. So at the end of that period, we ended up paying a $5,100 fine. In 12 years, I'd say that's pretty good operations. I was just looking at their news register the other day of all the fines in cities. They should have fined. So their fine was because they looked the other way. I have never been accused of that in my career. And Brandon would never do that. They're good stewards of our system. Have confidence that will never happen here. It doesn't mean we won't get a fine, but put it into perspective. A couple of months ago, we had someone here claiming that we were spewing sewage, raw sewage into the Yamhill River all the time. Doesn't council care about that? Well, of course you do. And believe me, it's 100% social media garbage. It does not happen. It hasn't happened. Went back years. It doesn't happen here. Other cities routinely dump sewage, raw sewage into the Yamhill River. And I don't need to name those cities, but that's normal operation things for them. It's not for us. So we are excellent stewards of the system, doing the best we can with the resources and staffing that we have. And they do it. DEQ could not be happier where we're at right now.
Okay,
So
Go ahead.
Talked to this one quite a bit. I haven't asked, I just have one.
yes.
Are you carry your own insurance or are you going to be insured by the city?
I 100% carry my own insurance.
That's all I got.
You read my mind. I was trying to figure out how to word that. Like,
I wanna
what's
make
the
it funny.
liability?
All right.
Any other council discussion or questions, or you kind of blend it all together? So any other audience questions or comments or?
I have a comment.
Yes, Ken.
A lot of the guys who would get certified to run the city plan over the years. Once they got certifications, like Greg was saying, they move on to Tiger, Lake Oswego or something. That's very, very common. These guys, I can tell you. That's just part of the deal. Because you have to have the certifications. Now, years ago, you could have a utility worker run the sewer plants as long as they were supervised by somebody like you. And one idea years ago was to have somebody like you on hire, and they'd spend 1 day a week, like 1 day here, 1 day Dayton, or Amity. I don't know if that still applies, probably not anymore.
Well, yeah, so there's contract operating firms that kind of apply that approach. But I think, so I've been doing this for about 6 years now. The last couple years, I've seen cities where someone's getting ready to retire, call him Bob. But Bob wants to retire, but they're gonna keep Bob on for 10 hours a week. And then that, until they find somebody, right? But first you gotta have a Bob. But yeah, I think times are changing because of the exodus of all the certified operators and new people coming in. But I think that could, come back and be a viable, it takes communities to coordinate, right? and all that kind of stuff.
That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where it sounds like Brandon has a great concept of let's roll it into a position where it's a supervisor position that wants that person, that someone who just quickly gets their level 3. Yes, there's the tigers and whatnot, but maybe we'll sweeten the desire to stay.
And one other comment I had is when Mike Henry designed this plan.
Haven't heard that name in a while.
When Mike designed it, the promise was it would last 2050. We're gonna fall short.
I think the concrete will still be.
Right. I agree.
Okay, so do we have any other discussion that happened, or is council happy to? move
I just
toward-
want to
Yeah.
add one thing. It sounds like this, 83,685 needs to be identified as a not to exceed amount.
It says that.
It
It's just
says
proposal.
total estimated cost.
So the motion will be an amount and it'll go up to that. And if there's cost overruns, then we'll see that, or it'll be within the discretionary limit of the administrator.
What would council like to do?
I move to accept the proposal from Water Dude Solutions LLC in the amount of $83,685.
I second that.
Oh, Joe already did.
I didn't.
No, you're good. Any more deliberations need to happen? Okay. All those in favor of accepting the proposal from Water Dude Solutions LLC in the amount of $83,685?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, motion passes 5-1.
And pardon me, there was a second over there. Did I?
Yes.
Council Jones.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
guess welcome on board for longer, Mark.
Absolutely, and yeah, again, if it pleases the board, I'd like, if you would like a report kind of midway through or something. But my goal would be to not come here and you will hear of, you have a new grade 3 operator.
Night, guys. Well, I will help coordinate for, make sure that it's with what the council wants, but with Brandon to make sure that we keep us in tune, and hopefully we don't see you again, and hopefully we see you out of the job.
Well, that's, yeah.
We'll write a recommendation if you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did this for a reason, so I've done it for a few other cities and they find reasons to bring me back, for 8,000, right? Instead of, but,
well, hopefully we won't see you for this sticker price again.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mark. Thank you.
Okay, is everyone good? Keep moving, or do we need a break for anything else? Yes, 5-minute break. Do I have to do anything official?
Yes. Gavel.
5-minute break.
I took.
I saw everyone hitting the bathroom. It's a jar, it's available. It's off camera too.
Great.
This is what.
It's exciting.
Oh, please. No one's in the bathroom. Okay. Let's reconvene for the rest of our meeting. I already hit the gavel, so. Next up is the amend the employment aid agreement for city administrator.
Can I just jump in
Yes.
on that? So, I'm gonna take some of the blame, but not all, because I didn't draft the agreement, but I was, asked by council to negotiate this agreement with Brandon. This amendment was something that was agreed upon. We actually talked about it in our deliberation by the council. This isn't some like, we're changing terms. It was a mistake in the contract that was drafted.
I appreciate that, Councilor Gilgan. I was also gonna share, because I did ask questions clarifying, like, okay, how did this come to be? Was this something that seemed to be well, now that I'm here, I want more. What are you gonna do about it? And I know that
And I
it
felt.
sounds like it was the wording that to you guys seemed clear, but then somebody else caught that we need to.
Yeah, and Brandon reached out to me about it and I felt awful because he had just moved across the country and we screwed up what we told him we were going to give him. This is not some change. This was deliberated and agreed on by council. And we agreed to it with Brandon and emails and whatnot. I think it's pretty good.
So it's the change in the wording, not change in what you had agreed to hit
We're
on.
not changing our agreements. This was the agreement.
All right, so I move to approve amendment 1 of the employment agreement with Brandon Dross.
Okay, anyone else need any deliberation on it? Okay, all those in favor to approve the amendment 1 of the employment agreement with Brandon Dross? All those opposed?
And just so I can get some clarity, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Do your benefits kick in the first day of your second month? Do they kick in February or are they already in?
They kick in March 1st.
Okay, so you're not like missing out on this for your first month or anything? We can
No.
do this
We don't.
sometime.
Okay,
Okay.
I mean, as long as I don't die in the next 45 days, I think we should be okay.
well, I hope you don't. Okay, motion passed. Wow, that was a nice quick. Hey, I'll hold you to at least 45 days now. Okay, on to discussion items. So 9A, water rate information from OAWA. Welcome to the table, Tim Tice.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I was here on November 10th. For preliminary set of numbers. Members were very strong and supportive on a budget. I believe Council Revan.
Yes.
Had wanted some additional information as it related to the service. So what we did is we ran a series of numbers, and on your page that's noted November 10th on top of the table outlined was our original recommendations.
The blue one was the original.
The one that has November 10th up on top of it.
Oh, yeah, the blue one. We have a colored one and a black and white one.
Mine doesn't say November 10th.
Yeah,
It's just blue.
we have a black and white one and we have a blue one.
So the long blue lines would be the November 10th.
That is our blue one.
So your clear one would be today's date for today's meeting.
Okay.
What we had done is look at a series of standards and how they apply to Lafayette and their current water rate structure. And they're solid rates. They're where they were kind of upside down, literally upside down, was in the consumption charge that you charge for anything additional above an allowance of water connected with the base rate. And having said that, we came up with some numbers based on the page that you're looking at November 10th. And all we're doing is just kind of really quickly summarizing what we discussed November 10th. And those rates were essentially changed from the current monthly rates to the proposed monthly rates. But I also wanted to drive home the point that the tiers cost per unit would be significantly changed. Those being on the right would be the new recommended rates for outside users versus inside users. And then again, to summarize that up, the number on the very, very, very bottom was on average usage would be an additional $16 a month. And then Councilor rather than said, well, this all includes this debt that you guys have accrued with NWL. And Preston had shared all this information with us, but we were going to look to do it in a two-step process. But since that point was brought up, what we did is we took the highlights of the debt service, that is the responsibility of the water department, and carried those out in a couple different various ways. We can either carry it out based on a unit of water, and what that unit of water be an additional charge if you decided to carry additional revenues to be able to cover those debts. Or are we going to be looking at something where we need to absolutely increase the base rate and then supplement the entire revenues with the consumption rates? Okay. The easiest way to be able to make this is if we took your entire budget, divided it by 12 months, divided by the number of users, bang, everybody pays the exact same monthly rate for water. That's great. It's a very simplistic approach, but it's extremely imbalanced. Extremely imbalanced. Not only for those users that may use less than the allowance of water, but it really is commercially detrimental because those costs go extremely high. Okay. So what we did is we looked at all the debt. Preston and I kind of went back and forth with their debt, and we know what their debt and the payments are. We calculated that out based on $200,000 increase to the budget and or a $300,000 increase to the budget. How does that play out? If we look at a $200,000 increase to the budget, you have about a $35,000 supplemental monies after 2023. So after August of this year, if these rates were included today. That 35,000 would then roll over against the other additional 200,000, and you would have $236,000 to pay a $302,000 debt. It gets a little bit worse from there to 2026, where you'll be needing an additional $171,000 to cover these debts. Go back and forth. Wasn't going to work. So we tried the $300,000 additional charges on top of the existing 1.49 million budget that we're looking at. After the first year, you have an additional 136,000 to combine with the 300,000 to cover the first year. You'll have an additional 64,000 to cover year two. You'll fall a negative after year three of $2,000. And then after year four, you'll have $131,000 in excess to pay that very final and 10th year. So it seems like $300,000 is kind of a magical number to keep you operating in the black. The non-blue paper is very, very similar to the first page I gave you. And I'm going to break some things down to make it kind of somewhat very important, I think, where I think you're going to want to know. If we look at a $300,000 budget, you're looking at a couple things to simplify. A base rate needs to go up at least $7 a month. Okay, so that runs from 5403 on this page to the center of the page to $60.93. I'm going to focus on that specific number because that number is relatable to about 93% of all your users, and those are the single family residential users. Okay, it's not to say that the commercial and industrial classifications of users are any less important. Okay, currently you have a flat base rate of 5403 with the exception of outside users, and that's a little higher. And we're also looking at recommending a multi-meter ratio applied to that based on the cost for replacement of that particular size meter. Those ratios are in the center of that second page that I share with you. They go from 1 to 1 all the way to 14 to 1. And what we're simply saying is, if you're going to replace a 4-inch meter and the infrastructure to support that particular service line, it's about 14 times the cost as opposed to just a standard 3/4-inch service line for a home. This is all American Water Works Association standards. We're not making anything up. It's very, very supportive across the board. If you wanted to simplify it even more, for every $100,000 that the council chooses to add to the budget to consider covering future debt, you're looking at 77 cents per unit. So you have these numbers of $7.75 on the right where it says tier cost per unit. That would go up another 77 cents for each 100,000 or additional $2.32 per unit. So the 775 would essentially be 930. Okay, I know it's very late. I'm throwing a bunch of numbers at you. It's very simple for me to just, because I look at this all the time. Down to brass tacks, the average user in this town across the entire board, this is just not single family residential users, but everybody across the board is 7.29 units. And we're looking at an additional $38 a month if you choose to go with the $200,000 or an additional $41 if you choose to go the full 300,000 added to the current 22-23 budget.
You're looking at this bottom table, the monthly rate, the numbers were slightly different. I think on the 700 line, it's printed 33 and you said 38. What's the difference on?
38 is the additional 100,000. Okay. These are the numbers I'm writing down. So that 33 is correct.
Okay.
Were you stating 729 is the average and that was the, not the 700? Okay.
Okay. A unit of water, I'm sorry, I talk units.
No,
okay?
you're good.
A unit of water for the city of Lafayette is 100 cubic feet or 748 gallons. Okay, so you provide 300 cubic feet or 2,992 gallons in your allowance of water. Anything beyond that, you would then start charging.
Yes.
Currently, you're charging $1.67. We're saying it's got to be a minimum of $9.30. On this, it says 77.5, and that's based on the $200,000. But I wanted to run a new set of numbers that would correlate with the 300,000. And what I just shared with you, Councilor Cribbin, is based on the 300,000.
Okay.
So instead of the
30 tiers, instead of 775, you have the 77 cents.
added on,
77.
I had the $2.30 added to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that down here with the rates, you know, the comparison.
Yes.
With the 700, that includes the 300 that's already like, that's.
Yes.
Right, so they'd be paying for 4 additional units.
Yes, sir.
So the average bill would go up.
From $60.71 to $99, based on a $300,000 increase to your budget. And whatever your name is, Preston wanted me to emphasize that for the budget committee going forward for the 23-24 budget. And I think if we're going to operate in the black each and every year, and we don't normally recommend some of the stuff going out anything beyond 4 years, but we took it clear to 20, you have that, whatever the highest is, your debt for the water department will be $371,000 in a specific year. I think it's 2026.
2026.
And then it holds at 371,000 for a few years, and then it falls down drastically to like 160,000. That'll be your final payment.
So once we get past that hump, you know, I know we talked about in November that 4% or whatever each year. Will we be enough in the black that we won't have to raise this rate for a while? Like, we're not gonna have to raise it 60% and then raise it 4% every year, are we?
Well, our recommendation is to use a consumer price index based on the water, wastewater utilities management. Okay. I've known Preston for quite a while, and he's really pushed to try to get away from reactionary maintenance. And that's what's been happening. It's not being looked at unless it's broken, and then that gets expensive. That consumer price index is much different than the consumer price index that you would look at that deals with clothing and food and shelter and rent and everything else. It looks specifically the basket of services for water, wastewater, and stormwater. Okay. We provide a link to the Bureau of Labor that provides that. So not Preston, Brandon will be able to bring that up on his computer, look at it, and it will say from 21 to 22, it was 3.9%. And that will be discovered in January, February for the commit council to say, these are what our rates need to go up. And that's just keeping your head above water, so to speak. Okay. Another thing we will recommend is a lot of cities will go back 5 years and look at that average, because we've had some spikes and some declines. Okay. And I can tell you from our experience, many cities say, we'll just add 3% every year, 3% every year. And you technically have lost money since about 2000, from 2015 until now, it's running almost 5% on just water and wastewater. And I'm not going to belittle that 2% by any means, but that's going to impact your rates. And then one of the things that we've been kind of working on, and not sure if we're going to be able to do it, but we'll work on it, is literally getting that operational side talking in December for those capital improvements that they plan to put in play for the next 12 months. The problem with choosing an example of capital improvement plans to get completed is we put the money in the budget for it, but then you don't have the labor or the time. And a lot of these capital improvement plans keep getting pushed back on the back burner, keep getting pushed on the back burner, and all of a sudden the kitchen is on fire. So we're trying to incorporate a methodology on operations where the operators know what's breaking down, what they need to fix, whereas there's a cost associated with it. We're fortunate you just had your master plan, your water master plan finished. So there's a great priority list there that you can look at. I highly encourage that the operators look at that and maybe rearrange it to be able to get as much done on that from that list. And we look at a 3-year cycle. So if you have $100,000 in repairs year 1, $200,000 in year 2, $300,000 in year 3, then we would highly recommend that's a $600,000 over a 3-year cycle. Blend that into $200,000, and that goes toward the system repairs. If it's not being used, then it gets rolled back over for the following year. Okay, so I currently recommend starting right out at 300,000, and I think the simplest way to apply everything we originally spoke about in November is that small $7 increase on the base rate, and the simplest 75 cents per unit per $100,000, or $2.35 for the combined 300,000 on the unit rate, on the unit charge.
Now, are you suggesting that, Tim, as the 1 rate increase of that amount next fiscal year, or to take that amount and break it into a July and a January, or just a one time in July? I mean, this is sort of leading into a discussion in February, the budget committee, talking about implementation. And staff can certainly have recommendations with more discussions with you, but I think I might have just heard what you were recommending. The $7 on the base, so much on the consumption side, as a good start. And maybe
And that would,
for next fiscal year.
and that would lead us to this jump of 30 some odd dollars difference for the average user.
So on the 400 cubic foot, the small time
Yeah.
user, these are the retirees.
Mhm.
Okay, you're going to
Not my
see an
family.
increase of $13. Last November, it was going to be $16. Okay, so what we try to do is shift more emphasis on more water being used. Okay, so I don't think I answered your question, but to digress a little bit to what Preston said,
Mhm.
I'll answer that with another question. If you do nothing or do it in incremental steps, where does that get you? I think for public trust, one and done, if you come in and do multiple rate adjustments multiple times throughout the year, and you're perfectly fine to do that. A lot of communities are doing. They'll do a base rate adjustment 1st of July, and then October 1, they'll do a tier structure adjustment, something like that. But quite confident if you add a $300,000 to the budget, which is a significant increase as we go from 1.49 to 1.79. But with these revenues and these speculations on the cost per user, you'll be operating in the black between now and 2026, 2027.
I think big rate increases like this should come with a lot of public information and education.
Absolutely.
I agree. I'm the first one to say, let's get the pom-poms out and communicate this.
It's, I 100% agree.
And the
And
reason I
that's-
say that is, and please, this is sarcasm 101. Turn the freaking water off, let it sit for a week, and when everybody smells and they get thirsty, when the water gets turned on, you can charge whatever you want for it. I'm not suggesting that, but bottom
Neither
line,
am I.
we are extremely, and I include myself in this, extremely spoiled when it comes to water and wastewater. We don't think about flushing the toilet or getting a glass of
I
water.
work for the electric company, I understand that.
I'm right alongside you where my biggest concern is not, I mean, it costs to live. And I don't want to just put a Band-Aid on it or hide it just because we don't want to be the ones that say, hey, we're raising water rates, because we're sitting here because we took that, oath that we're gonna serve our town and
Well, if you
we knew what we were
educate
getting
people
to,
and they
so
understand why. That's.
and give that heads up that it's not, wait, what? It's happening the coming month or,
So big,
I've got a few questions.
okay, go for it.
Thank you. There's a lot of numbers here.
And late at night.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the one thing, I think I have a different definition of what debt service is. But I think what it is saying is that you're coming up short. So there's a subsidy of $164,000 coming out of some fund to fill that gap. This doesn't represent capital equipment expenditures. Is that?
well, it represents all costs, staff, supplies, projects, debt service.
Okay, so
All
there's an equation, okay, for coming, I'm sure, coming up with any kind of a rate and would be operating cost and debt service, which in this case is a number that represents unplanned or unbudgeted expenses.
That falls under a line item called contingency, and that is in this budget.
Okay, so that would be for like 2023, $164,000.
That will be your debt payment in August of this year.
Okay, which means that monies would be owed to a different category within the budget.
So he came in November and gave us all the information. But one thing it was missing was the debt we have to pay every year for 10 years to Mac Water and Light they fronted the cost for us to put in the intertie. So we don't have to have water restrictions. So he went back, because usually you say, what's your total cost? What's your total usage? And there's an equation, like you said. He went back and added, because we're on a tier that's not, equal for the 10 years. And we've got some big payments coming up. And we said, well, we want to be able to smoothly make it. And he's saying 200,000 debt service is not gonna make it. We're gonna fall short. He's saying we really need to shoot for the 300,000 to be in the black and have any kind of contingency. So that's mostly when he says the debt service, he's taking account of everything. The only added part is the Mac Water and Light repayment plan.
So originally, the budget was 1.496. Okay, this is 1.696, because I originally figured everything out at 200,000. And in my weird way of all my Winfield time, I'm starting to run numbers in my head and I'm like, okay. So I sat out in the parking lot for a little bit and just ran some numbers based on 3.
So about 1.7 million.
It's based on the $200,000 from the original budget that we started in November. Okay, so now it's actually 1.796 based on 300,000. Okay, I just didn't have the ability to put it on paper to share with you, but I want to emphasize that 300,000 works for you. The original 1.49 included all personnel and services, materials and services, debt service for that 1 year, okay, which was, I think it's 164 this year, but it was 61,000 last year. When I got the original set of numbers, the debt was 61,000. And then we did some contingency and some capital improvement. What I think I have Preston convinced on is that capital improvement plan that we are recommending, and that's a 2-branch tree that says this is what you're going to do short term, this is long term. Short term on that tree is the low hanging fruit. It could be anywhere for a $45,000 SCADA upgrade, and then all into the $4 million reservoir that you're going to do. That's a totally different animal. We'd love to see you be able to build reserves for those much larger projects, 5 or 10 years that is outlined in your master plan. It's just, if we're looking at it now, we're looking at really too much of a jump, too much of a jump.
Well, I think your 200,000 analysis is pretty good. And the big picture items here are the reservoir is getting built. It doesn't impact your rates. You have water SDCs that can be used for certain water projects, not for paying debt service. There's not a lot of pressure on your operations budget to do water projects because we've done all the important ones over the last 12 years. But what you have to do is, Kim was asked to do is look at the debt service, make sure we get over that hump. And as far as future contingencies and all, again, on the fiscal challenges facing the city, which we've talked about at the budget committee the last couple of years. Again, that's kind of a blueprint to help Brandon Dross and all is at the time that you look at finishing off and repaying all your debt, you've got capacity in your utility fund, your enterprise fund, to invest that. And you're looking at investing into a regional water system. And whether you do that or not, that's a decision the council and the budget committee need to make probably 4 or 5 years down the line. Do you continue in the Dayton operations of the joint system? Well, if you're going to invest in a regional, probably not. There's several $100,000 in that. So the city's in a very good position to make sure you get your debt payments through, and I'll take care of some staffing issues in the meantime. There are not big water projects that's going to take down your utility fees. There will be projects, but again, you're looking at ARPA monies helping to replace all the water meters citywide. That relieves a tremendous burden on your utility fund. And so you're really in a good place when it comes to water. And it needs to be looked at every year, how you're doing with staffing. We talked about maybe a superintendent coming in. They're going to be partially paid out of the water. All of those things can play in and be managed and to help you to 4 years down the line of it to decide of your investments in a regional system. And there's pros and cons on all of that. But
how do the proposed rates compared to surrounding communities? Because we're going to have an issue with trying to explain. I couldn't do it. Explain what I'm seeing here. Okay, you can tell that from the questions that I'm asking. But I look at that and I go, okay, you know, if we're significantly higher than our neighbors, you know, coming and going, then
because we can't compare apples to oranges when their debt is not the same as our debt.
But you know, you're correct. But they can come back and say, what were you guys doing for the last dozen years? Yeah.
Well, aren't you glad you weren't the one sitting here and you can answer different, you know, that.
But see, well, we can't sit back.
We can't ignore them.
Was it my fault?
No.
We have to be able to explain it.
well,
Correct.
and let me tell you, it's a very good story to tell. how this community has solved its water issues that it's been trying for the last 50 years to solve.
And as Counselor Johnson mentioned, it's her, her focus is she wants to educate and provide tools and communicate that, what's going on.
Correct. And with every rate increase that we've brought forward in a budget, we've always given comparison to all the other Handheld County cities. There are still people in this community that think we have the highest water rates around because they remember what happened when they got hit with water increases because of the bond measures and the wastewater all at once. The city, Lafayette did have the highest utility rates, some of the highest water rates. That's past history. We're now one of the lowest. And it's not fair to compare to Mac, who's got some of the lowest water and electricity rates, subsidizing it in the whole state of Oregon. So we kind of have to throw them out. But the other cities, we are down near the bottom in our water rates.
Correct.
Currently, yes.
How will it pan out?
Well, you would have to do that data and show you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just finished Dayton's water rates and their wastewater rates. Just finished Amity's water rates and getting close to their wastewater rates. Just finished some outside Manzanita, Nahale, these all cities we're working with. The average water bill is going to run on the average usage. Now, I don't know if the average usage, I can't give you those numbers for like what Dayton uses, but you're right in the ballpark with these new rates. When I first started, of course, 05, looking at this, it was easily understood that water, wastewater would cost a typical single family home about $60 a month combined. Now we're pushing 150. And we're pushing 150 because the simple fact that you've all hit on a number of things. Staffing is horrendous. We cannot beg a high school young man or young woman to come and work for the city and say you have your livelihood here for the rest of your life. They don't think that far ahead, but you have that ability. Okay. Bring the high schoolers down to the water treatment plant or the sewer plant and say, this is what comes in, look what goes out. Okay. Supply chains, a stick of pipe, 8-inch HDPE pipe before COVID, $22, now $90. And we're not seeing it come down. So these are all some of the things you're challenged with to be able to run the numbers and figure out what those costs are. But on an individual basis, the mayor basically said you can't compare because if I put you all to sleep tonight and you woke up and you had a brand new water and brand new wastewater system with no debt, what would your water rates be? What would your wastewater rates be?
Well, I'm just trying to prepare myself mentally. Okay, for the barrage of people with questions.
And you will not need to be the one. Your job is to understand this for you. We're sitting here, put Tim here to help us understand this so that we're able to give direction to the city when it's time. And it's amongst, it'll be Brandon, that gets to take our feedback and our motion and what we approve and spin it to the community. It's not all on your shoulders to be able to take this into layman's terms, to be able to explain it to your neighbor.
Well, let me share with you, Mayor, if I may. A very simple analogy is you drive a Volkswagen Bug and I drive a diesel truck. I should pay the same $20 per month to fill my tank as you pay $20 to fill up your Volkswagen Bug. Okay, there's one analogy. The best analogy that I'd love is you go across to Liberty Market and you buy yourself a bottle of water, 16.9 ounces. What did you pay for it? $1.29. Okay, you take that same bottle of water and fill it up with city water. You write down it cost you less than 0.07 cents. People take water for granted. They don't understand that you can deliver a gallon of water for $0.015 a gallon. That is true. It's factual. It's transparent. It's exactly what it is. Literally our goal. I will feed you a bunch of information you need to share with the council, because if Councilor Drebin is at the post office and he goes, "Where are my water rates?" Or Councilor Paulson at the store, "What's my water rates?" We need to have a uniform answer, and it's transparent. the numbers are not bad for this size of community. They really aren't, okay? Trying to apply it where George and Henrietta, who used 700 gallons a month, have some skin in the game to be able to pay for that support, and their property values and everything are associated with the services that these departments provide them. But yet you also have the really large consumers that will leave a water sprinkler on and flood everything out overnight, and they're going to end up paying for that. And that's it's a cost of services. And everything we've laid out meets those requirements. I guess my question to you is, do you want to tear the Band-Aid off, or do you want to pull it off? And I say that because let me give you another example. For every $100,000 that you're going to want to add to this budget, it's going to cost uniformly across the board about $5.50 on a base rate. Or do you want to look at the base rate, how we presented it, and apply it to the consumption side, which would generate another $2 per unit, and that would be then another from $94 to $99 for the average user, which they're currently paying $60. So significant increases, I understand, but as a fair and a balanced approach, well, I sound like Fox News. Let's back that up. For a fair approach that is stood up on facts and figures, nobody can argue against it. And that is our goal. You know, we want you to be able to stand tall and say, this isn't fun to take our medicine, but at least somebody's got some sweetener.
And the consumption rates allows people to have a little bit of, control over it. My kids love bats, and if it was gonna impact me, it might be, not as many bats
It's a
for my
requirement in
even
Lafayette that
10-year-old.
you have minimum 2 kids per bath, so we're all right with that. No.
Really appreciate the data,
Mhm.
and you coming back with the supplemental. So, in November, we learned that we're at about 26% below what we used to be at. We were looking at a 26% raise. Based on the numbers you gave, that gets us in the clear, we're looking at 63% I'm looking at the 700 for the average user. I just did some back of the napkin, stuff here. So basically the difference on that was due to the intertie. It did go out for a vote. That everybody in the community is accountable for that.
Oh, okay. That wasn't done by council. Okay.
So, yeah, you have to approve anything over $1 million per capita.
I vote.
Yeah.
If we had also completely funded the reservoir through this, bare minimum, we'd be looking at an 80% increase.
And so it was on that for getting all that money, having it not affect the rates. That's huge.
So, we've got some big improvements that we've been looking at, that we, have and are working on. So it is a huge amount to go from 26%, or even just to go to 26%. I was shocked that didn't include this, but we're getting that extra reservoir. It is on the whole community. We voted to approve it, or whoever lived here at the time voted to approve it. So I think it definitely speaks to the community is going to hold the council accountable to make sure you better be on top of things. We learned that this was the first rate study we've done in 10, 12 years or more. We got to get on that with the sewer. But and again, the data speaks for itself, right? We need this, or we're gonna, in several years, we're gonna come back and say, okay, we need to do an even bigger increase and take out more debt with interest. I would like to suggest one thing, and we're gonna have to look into it. Somewhere where I lived previously, on the utility rates, they allowed you, well, it was like an opt out of maybe, but they rounded up to the nearest dollar, and they basically put that in a fund for people that were struggling to pay. And I like the idea of that, because for some people in the community, this is going to be, oh, dang, they raise the rates. Okay.
Yeah.
For some people, it's going to be, are they going to shut my water off this month? And, so I think we need to consider that and find alternatives for how can we set ourselves up well while, taking into account. So
How do we be responsible, but also understand that for some people,
right.
even the smaller amount is gonna hurt them. And that's why I like the consumption part, where we can offer possibly a workshop or a pamphlet or some kind of communication of, here's ways that you can drop your consumption.
Yep.
Here's, a fund that,
My last question, and if you don't have the data, if you could maybe pass that through. As far as the robustness of these numbers, when we consider, are people gonna cut their usage by half? What does that look, does that drop our projections drastically?
Great question, great question. There's a number of factors that play into that.
And it's like, well, that's-
You have an answer.
No, I was just saying, I mean, it's hard, it's hard to cut usage when you see how much, like, how little water we do use as society. So, I mean, just,
Or someone might cut it for a month and then realize, oh my God,
I had
the habit still.
Gallons per capita daily. Oh, Lafayette, I did, but I don't know what it is, not off the top of my head. So, great question, because most of the time, we see a small percentage of people go, oh, I'm not gonna give them any more of my money, and they cut back. 5-6 months later, bam, they're right back to normal use.
Our first year, we cut our, our usage for when we're calculating sewage rate, and I'm like, that wasn't worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's not on the agenda, but this guy's got all the information for our offer to do the wastewater rates. The other side of that, what really impacts is if we have a wet spring into summer, okay, where that growing season, okay, usually demands a lot of water, but yet we're getting a lot of rain, you're gonna see revenues taper off. So what we will provide in the final study is for Brandon to review revenues every single month from water sales. I don't care about late charges. I just need your base rates and how much water you sell. And is that hitting the number that's in that final report? Because then we know we're on target with what we've recommended here, okay? You might, a lot of water systems sell a boatload of water in the summertime to fund their existence through the wintertime. What we're trying to do with these rates, specifically the base rates, is match those fixed expenses with those fixed revenues coming in every month so that the city can function. And then whatever additional water sales goes out to match the budget. That's our approach. And it's usually between 60 and 75% of most budgets are fixed. But you might be a little closer to 75 and you're not there yet, but you might be because you just don't have the number of people to draw from. If you just said I had 10,000 extra connections tomorrow, it would be an entirely different animal to look at your rates. But
So can I ask council, do you guys all feel comfortable releasing Tim? Like, I know we put it on discussion, invited him back. Did he do his job helping explain for your brain these rates?
Yes.
and I know some of you have heard this one before, and thank you. I mean, that it doesn't do me any good if you're not understanding what we're saying, and to get that message not only to you, but you to get that message out to your
And then-
constituents.
I know that Brandon understands it, correct? So as we move forward with our next steps, we, at least we have an understanding where we had a chance to ask Tim questions. We could probably be here all night with more questions because no one wants to raise water rates. No one even wants to think about that. But I think we're gonna just start talking circles.
So my only
So,
question is,
yeah.
do you want us to write a final report based on the $300,000 additional to the 1.496?
Yeah. I do. I think that if we're gonna rip that Band-Aid, we're gonna,
That's the number that is the golden number, right?
Sweet spot.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that with some, I try to be very conservative on the revenues, but we're hoping that, you're gonna see after 2025, maybe able to make that next payment. It all depends on the consumption of water. And one of the things that I will share with you, and this is gonna be on that man's shoulders, within a year of calculating everything we ask you to start tracking, give us the numbers back. I'll be happy at no cost to you, be happy to rerun those numbers and say, hey, guys, with the circumstances that have,
here's the real numbers.
here are the real numbers, but with the circumstances that have fallen us for the last 12 months, we're here.
Okay.
And how do you want to approach that? I mean, this kind of stuff needs to be done every single year. We never get anybody to do it. We currently have about half a dozen cities that call us every 5 years and say, look at it. And all we do is we take the expertise of the operators and what their knowledge is, and say, what does Lafayette need? What does Lafayette need for the water side? What does Lafayette need for the wastewater side? And then they bring that information and it's entrusted to him to be able to bring it to you to say, this is what we need. And, and all the numbers can get backed up with data. That's the big thing.
Yeah, so I personally, 300,000.
Okay, we will go put all the new numbers based on the
And then-
1796 and run the numbers and write the report, and I'll try to have it to you by July, so you can put it in resolution.
Okay.
The only other question is yay or nay on the letter, what we send you the quote?
Well, before you jump to wastewater, the council will be having a discussion with their budget committee. And they could begin to talk about implementation.
Okay.
And the budget will include recommendations for next year on the water side.
Okay.
But you're not gonna have a budget next month. But there could be discussions as to a couple of rate increases in water next year. Maybe 4 or 5%, something like that. I mean, that's what you need to be talking about. And Brandon will have information to help guide a discussion next month that says, if you raise water rates 4%, July 1st, 5% on January. I mean, what does that look like for our budget? And
Preston, we're talking about 63%. I don't think 4 and 5% is going to cut it.
well, 63% is more of what you're looking at to cover your debt service, in 4 years.
If we start in July, is that correct? Yeah, we got to start right away.
So if you look at that piece of paper I just shared with you, that piece of paper is based on $200,000 above what we talked about in November. Okay, so I'm asking from 5403 here to 6093, and then calculate everything out. You kind of have a good idea. It's going to be somewhere between 95 to $100 for an average usage, when it's right now it's 60. That's the bottom line. I think that what you wanted to know. However you wish to implement it, that is the decision of this council. I just need to know that I want to be able to generate enough charts for you that you can get it out to the community and say, this is what your rates are, this is what they're going to be. You have a way and ability to control that. But
Because I think we said one time, right? We don't want to keep going.
Yeah.
10% every month for.
Because then people don't hear the whole story. They just, they raise it again, they raise it again, they raise it again.
The only thing that I can do, and I don't know why I'm doing saying this, is you could do the base rate adjustment with a meter multiplier, July 1, allow all of your folks to use whatever water at the bare minimum rate of $9.30, and then implement a tiered structure October 1.
Then it sounds like we asked that we raised it once and that didn't work, and now
It's that
sneaky trying
perception.
to-
That's why I'm saying I'm shooting myself in the foot when I'm saying this. But I mean, you have all the options in the world, but you tear the Band-Aid off and you put everything in play right July 1.
So Brandon, we need as much communication out to, it sounds like you got council's understanding that this is gonna be a big Band-Aid rip off.
And if you want to call me, send me an email, say, Tim, what do you recommend here and stuff? I really like the bottled water sitting right out front here. Everybody comes in and pays their water bill, says, oh, this is what Liberty Market paid, $1.29. This is what you paid for that water delivered. It's a no-brainer. It's such a very perfect visual for me.
But we need to,
I think we all need to start having that conversation because PG,
Yeah.
they went up, I think 17%.
Yeah.
And like, then so it's not just water, it's the
No.
whole utility industry. I think as long as you're dealing around
PGE or PGE,
PG.
you said Andy.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I work for PGE.
Who's not a local?
I'm so new to the area.
for the 5, depending on who you talk to, or.
Well, no, it's one of those things I think, even before it gets to the budget committee, we need to start planting those seeds in our interactions, and we can come up with infographics and things for the website and the app on what things are looking like. But I think it's all of us start having those conversations when we speak with the residents. Hey, this is what's coming up. Do you have any questions or concerns? Seems like you're all on board, but the minute you all pass this, you start getting those phone calls, then you're gonna start being reactive. Oh, well, we're on board with it, and then you're gonna talk about.
Like, why are you harvesting water in the backyard now? I'm saving up because.
Right.
Yeah, so just know that I know and it sounds like Joe, and it sounds like maybe a few other counselors really want to make sure that we are being responsible and helping with the pain of that Band-Aid as much as possible. So, yeah.
So can we get the wastewater on the February agenda?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
And I don't need to be here. If you're
Yeah.
private, just send me an email and I'll.
Jim's like, please don't ask me to be there. I don't need to be there.
My only thing I have not addressed, I addressed the price, the cost, but I have not addressed the time. We will not do this for this 23-24 budget year unless you want to implement October 1 or January 1.
Okay.
It's just, there's too much on our plate. I'd love to be able to say, let's just dive right into it, but
So kind of like we're on a wait list, kind of like,
well, if you were at the top of the list and I said, Lafayette could wait a little while.
no, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know that if we overload your work
It's
schedule, you're not gonna be able to
first
do
come,
that.
first served
Yeah.
for us. If we dived in, we dived in, and I've had people say, I'll pay you an extra this to get us done by, I can't do it. It's just, it's not right. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not
Okay.
a good business.
So the sooner we decide if we want to do that, the sooner we can get on your calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, but you'll have a time estimate with the proposal in February.
I'm thinking rough draft numbers like this, probably October.
Yeah.
October,
Okay.
October 1, but it's, if more people jump on before tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. I think it's 11,000. It's a little
Which
bit less.
would be mine now.
It's a little less than the water because the water takes that time.
Mhm.
The only thing I'm gonna really shock you is we're gonna get away from the equivalent dwelling units that wastewater is being billed and go right back to the meter. It's
Okay.
simple for the public to understand.
Thank you, Tim, for your time and for how late you were on the
Yeah.
very
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
best.
Real quick,
No,
Kansas, or Kentucky?
Kansas,
Kansas Rural Water Association?
yes.
That's our system.
Oh, nice.
That's who.
Mark Thomas is a good guy. He did our GIS mapping out there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
okay,
Did it for
go
free?
Kansas. Okay, appointments to boards and commission.
Yes, Your Honor, it's a handful.
Mhm, we have a lot.
Traditionally, those are the things, you do that in January too, but it's just a lot. New council, you need to think about it. It gives you a month to think about it and for y'all to talk, but the main thing is advertising vacant positions.
Yeah.
The
I know
city
all
has
about that.
never made an appointment to a position that hasn't been advertised first.
And you and I also discussed, keeping it consistent with the application. Right?
Yeah, what you had suggested, Your Honor, is perfectly reasonable that anyone that's currently on a committee,
Mhm.
but their term's up. If they want to stay on, they need to fill out another application. And state their reasons why they want to continue. That would be a change in the process, but fine change,
I just
that's,
want, after what happened last time, to make it very clear, our expectations on, are these applications required or not required, or?
I would throw in there that I would tread lightly with having people who want to stay on, fill out applications.
Well, I didn't, I
There's
was
just a lot of
gonna
things we
correct
need
it.
are barriers, because we
Yeah.
already struggled to fill these positions.
Some kind of statement saying that they would like to, whether it's speak, you had asked to speak, do you want me to find out if they want to? Just something that lets us know if they want to be considered, but the fact that they've been on these committees and commissions speak as their application.
That's the mayor's job, because the mayor is the one that's appointing people. So what the mayor should be doing is calling each buddy on the committee and say, do you want to stay on?
That's-
And-
I'm not
and-
against
and-
that.
And if you do, then that should be enough.
Yeah, when I was on the planning commission, that's what the mayor just called me and said, hey, you're about to expire, do you want to keep doing this?
Okay.
Because I think that Leah's right about the fact that.
I
we have a
do not
hard time.
remember saying, and I was gonna correct it, that I wanted applications. Like full-blown applications from those already on. My question to Preston was, just because they want to keep their spot, if not that it's gonna happen, but if 16 people applied for the position, it's not automatically theirs. Yes, there's some weight in the fact that they've already served and are knowledgeable. It was though that if applications are filled out, new people, that the applications need to be.
So you're gonna bump somebody that's been on 4 years because you had 12 applications.
Not necessarily.
Well, do you
But
get
it's-
an application if there's not a vacancy?
So if a term is coming up. Right, so it is at the mayor's discretion. So if the mayor said, I want to call everybody that's on there and we still have applicants, I'll sort through that. If you say, I'm not even going to consider somebody if they don't fill out an application, you call somebody, say your term's expiring, but you have to fill out an application if you want to. I mean, it's person to person. It's ultimately up to them who want to do that. I would say if somebody is wanting to serve on a committee, it shouldn't be too hard to fill out an application. If they're saying, I want to serve, but that's like a non-starter for me, then let's find somebody that's willing to do it. Again, your full discretion, as far as how you do it, but it sounds like you've got some good input on how things have been done and you've got some ideas.
I feel that two things. No, I'm not saying automatically oust someone, but I'm not gonna, the position's up, there's a reason it gets renewed. It's not a lifetime position until you step down. And maybe we do have somebody that's doing subpar work. I'm not saying we do or don't. And another person applies and we go, you know, so-and-so has not been fulfilling their things. They're not showing up to that many meetings. And we have another person. So yeah, I will consider it an opening.
Well, it's your discretion for the appointment. It just has to be confirmed by it. So however you do your appointments, if you're.
I just want, yeah, so if someone's on it and wants, in their position, terms ending, I have no problem being the one that reaches out. When Preston and I were speaking, it sounded like he traditionally does do that. And I didn't, want to step on toes, but I have no problem asking, do you want to be considered are you interested in moving forward? As that the position is coming up for renewal. And that it's part of the advertised positions, because we don't necessarily need to advertise that, 2 positions are open, just multiple positions or what,
Correct.
But that anybody new coming in, yeah, I'm not gonna just, I'm talking to someone on the street, they're like, oh, consider me for it. It needs to be unanimous. And since we are, consistent, and since we have this application floating around, we either use it or we don't use it for somebody interested in being considered. The only difference is somebody already serving. The fact that they served, we know all about them. We know their information. We know that they want it, that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that would be
we're
redundant.
all the same. You make
Yeah.
the appointments by your process. We don't use the application, use the application.
Yeah.
And as far as we'll plan on advertising in the February newsletter.
Okay.
To solicit applications for budget committee planning and the downtown facade grant.
Mhm.
And that's without getting into the nitty gritty of the
Yeah.
terms, people apply.
Yeah.
And so
Well, am I correct in saying that the applicant flow is kind of on the
Down
short side? So are you planning to advertise on the website, app?
You bet.
The newsletter,
You bet.
any other,
as many avenues as
those can
possible.
go out right-
People in the audience.
those can go out right away
Yeah.
with the app.
Oh, no, Brandon, you're running around tomorrow with it, like, film. Travis.
Travis Johnson, 1002 Market Street. So I'm just very curious about next week's planning commission meeting with the hearing on Jefferson Heights with Councilor Shaw and Councilor Johnson being on council now. Is there a quorum and how will that work for that event? If you're not going to appoint anyone tonight, is there enough people at that? I ask because I will be attending and I'm in communication about
Mhm.
that event.
well, if there's 4 people, you've got a quorum.
There's a couple things talking about the planning commission. First off, there is no meeting next week. So you haven't got the notice yet. Oh, or when you get home, it'll be there. That will look to be rescheduled for the February, the 3rd Thursday. But you're on the list, and so, but and there's different ways to calculate the quorum when you have vacancies. So it's not canceled because of the quorum issues. It's been canceled because we're not ready yet. There is one complication or one twist in this, and And George Larson being non-responsive, likely at your February meeting, you're gonna have to declare a vacancy there. You will have another person or another position to fill on the planning commission. The city of Lafayette has never had more applications than you know what to do with. Okay, that's just sort of the way it is. And
It'd be beautiful, but it's not.
so, but you have to advertise it sufficiently. And if we do a big advertisement to solicit, you may not get much interest. It's kind of a quick turnaround between getting it out. And we can do the app and the website now, but you know, this kind of thing really does help a lot from the newsletter. To ask people do read the color newsletter. Not as much as we would like, but a lot of the benefit of finding interested people is you are recruiting and talking to people. When they talk to you, you mention, oh, you want to volunteer? Great, there's opportunities. Fill out a volunteer form. You know, we got them on the website, we got them here in the office, and we accept applications throughout the year. They're only good for so long.
Do we have any sitting there right now?
There probably is a few, yes. There probably is a few, and I can't tell you what
No, I'm just curious.
positions.
You have applications on our website that are downloadable?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had one thing to say. Councilor Newman in December talked about this, but she gave a report on the downtown facade committee. She said this year, like, it's only 3 people right now. She said she felt that was not enough. I tend to agree.
Yeah, we talked about making it 5.
We talked about 5, and I know we have enough vacancies to fill already, but I think going forward, that's gonna be the best number. Unless we do it and we find out it's wrong, then we have to live with it for 2 years, but you know.
I think part of the conversation was that we wanted to address the downtown facade. A bunch of things about it, and one of those being that.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind. I don't know what the process is for us to deciding to add, you know, more spot. But
My suggestion would be to take up the changes you want to make in that. Outside of this process.
Yes.
Don't rush to do that, but take care of the facade grant committee criteria and membership.
But that's also why it's important, like, let's say Becky does want to continue.
She does, yes.
That we still, you know, share that there's, you know, that is one of the positions that most likely, you know, reading what people want, that, okay, Becky's already on, she's doing great. Most likely we are going to, you know, but that we have in the kitty people, you know, that and why we hold on to them.
I would almost say we should increase the numbers if we're gonna be making changes. What better to have 5 heads going in instead of 3?
Is it possible to have that on the agenda next month to the changes to the facade?
Before we
Can we
appoint,
just make a motion now to expand it to 5 since it's
You really need to change the resolution. And that's.
so can we put that on the agenda before we get to the appointments?
You can, if that's what you want to do, if that's the only change you want to make.
For now, yeah, let 5, so it's odd numbers.
So right now, it's a counselor, a member of the planning commission, and 1 general public. Or do we just open up to 2 more general public?
General public, yeah, I mean, it could be another counselor if they wanted to, but
There's planning.
I don't think it should be, but general public.
No, that it can be.
Okay, no, I prefer it being general public too, especially something like that at people. Yeah, so if we could get that on the agenda to change, you know, to open up 2 more spots or add 2 more spots, then, you know, if we have a floodgate of application.
Well, then when we
An appointment.
advertise, we can say, we anticipate having 3 open spots.
Correct,
For this. Anticipates a good word
Yeah.
because we're not,
correct.
it's not.
Well, it's
Just-
not a done deal until you approve it, but.
That's what anticipate
Well,
means.
yeah,
Preston.
but
Well-
what do you say about the others? You know, it's just.
Okay, it's
Well,
9 o'clock.
okay,
Keep
let's-
going.
Okay,
So-
so Just that in the order of the agenda, have that before the appointments.
Yeah, and not to put anything on the spot, but Travis, I don't see your name on any of these.
Travis isn't always here regularly, he said.
Well, I told him I was only gonna come on board if you would volunteer. That was really.
He's considering running in 2 years for mayor. Okay, department reports, Preston, Public Works, water production, consumption.
Just a couple of things that I would mention over our community development clerk, Danielle Olivier, she has resigned. And it kind of was suspected when you have a wonderful baby and she's so we're all really happy. So
When's her last day?
Or
she already done?
She's done.
Okay.
He's done now. And so that's another vacancy we have to deal with. We are looking at hiring a maintenance worker and having them start for February 1st. So that's and the third one for the staffing level is that the New Carlton Fire District has hired both of their firefighter EMTs. So we now have a wonderful person assigned to our station now. I haven't had a chance to meet her yet, but Brendan has. So that's 3 changes to our org chart, which are wonderful. And we put the org chart in our budget, but we'll update that for February.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay. And then we have fire. Who usually reads that? Or do we just look at it and go, okay, thank you?
If there's questions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on?
I have a question about status. It says completed or in progress. And I look back at some of the dates, oh geez. Well, this is all for last month. You know, if something's in progress, there's action to be applied to bring it to a resolution.
Right.
And when you've got something that says cover assignment, standby, move up, that's just an operational statement. That's not in progress.
It is if it was like, for instance, they were covering.
Yeah, standby with at another incident outside the jurisdiction. So that would be.
So the time that this was printed, they had things going in progress. Doesn't mean that it's tonight, it's still in progress.
Well, here's one, motor vehicle accident with no injuries in progress. How many times are you gonna hit the tree?
So
Because they haven't closed it.
I think we just need to ask for clarification. with
Yeah.
that column.
Yeah, you know, and I think the descriptions are fine. I just have a thing about status. I like to see things falling off.
Well, I think if you looked up all these right now, these specific things would all say completed. This was printed a week ago. So at the time of this, being printed, those were all in progress. But yeah, I guess if
I
we are.
think you're right, Your Honor, but we'll confirm that.
Yes, please confirm that. Okay. Administration, accounts payable and code enforcement.
I've got something to say about coding.
Well, wait, let's let Preston as department reports.
I don't normally preface
anything?
those,
Okay.
but it just to respond to questions.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead. What's your question, Michael?
Okay, I
Or
went
Counselor Shaw.
through and did basically a tally, and there's 2 categories. One is a citizen report and the other is the code enforcement officer. And course of this last year, the citizens reported things 14 times and the code enforcement officer independently contributed 11. And that sort of says that a good deal of code enforcement is being placed on the citizens. Now, when you get neighbors reporting neighbors, that could be unhealthy for any environment.
Okay, so can we, all right. I'm not dismissing your concern or question, but that is a whole different topic than going over the report.
Okay.
Sorry, if, that's, evaluating the code enforcement program in itself.
So is that gonna happen?
Not right now.
But I kind of disagree with that comment. You
Okay.
have many citizens and one code enforcer, and citizens are always gonna.
But that's why it's a whole different discussion, how, that goes where you evaluate it against what are other cities, what is their percentage rate and stuff, but that. I'm gonna be respectful of the time. And keep us focused right now, and if it's something you want on the agenda, please speak with our.
Well, let me bring it up. Is there something that people are concerned with?
No.
I think code enforcement is doing really well.
Neighbors are always gonna report.
Mhm.
I think if you have specific concerns, Kevin's always been available, as a good resource because I think he is the managing the code enforcement officer.
Well, I'm not as concerned with the citizens reporting as I am concerned with the observation that in the course of almost a year.
I think a month. That's for the.
No, I'm looking at
Okay.
the year.
Okay.
There's been 11
Okay,
from the code enforcement officer. So my concern is that officer being underutilized?
that is a big question to ask if other people have concern.
I would start
On the
with
spot?
Kevin and then see if it needs to come.
Yeah, my first step is they speak to Kevin, and then after that conversation, if you feel that it needs to be put on the agenda. By then it will be Brandon that you would request it being on the agenda, but is there any questions about the report? Okay. Any committee reports? Any counselor reports?
On that topic,
Yeah.
Preston's aware of this. I was working with Preston regarding a real estate acquisition on behalf of the city. I am now, from a professional standpoint, conflicted out of that. So as that gets passed on to Brandon, somebody else will have to fill that role, but that can be taken care of at a later time.
Okay. So that leads us to the no counselor report besides that. Mayor's report. No, besides the fact that we referenced it all night, Preston, I want to acknowledge on behalf of the current and previous council, your work for 12 years with the city of Lafayette. We know that this is your last council meeting, which, is our gift to you that it ran past 10 o'clock. And we just wish you well with your retirement. We hope you thoroughly enjoy that season and utilize that season in whatever way works for you. But I know you probably are one of those people that likes to keep things short and sweet when the attention is on you. So you can take this home and like display for the month as people walk in, because it is a big change for you.
1, 2, 3.
So,
You got your blackmail voted.
yeah. And I think other than that, is there anything you want to say on behalf of that, or you can say, no, I'm just sitting here
Well, I
accepting.
just want to thank you, Mayor Malcolmson, and it's been a great 12 years, a lot of progress in the city, wards, and all, and it's, I just really don't have any regrets. I think the city's in great shape. I am very impressed with Brandon Dross. The council did a great job bringing him in, and
No, go to you three. That's where all
and I
going.
just want to thank you for that, and that all the accomplishments we've been able to do over 12 years, lots of them. It's only the result of council and admin working collaboratively. I would say nothing great ever happens in the city without that good collaboration. So do please keep that in mind as you move forward, and Lafayette's in great shape. Yes, thank you.
And your last day is 31st, right? And then you okay. And I think other than that, as just to keep you guys informed, I am rolling out in conjunction with Wash Elementary and hopefully with Dayton Grade School, the the Oregon Mayor Association, If I Was Mayor contest. If you have any questions on that, I'm happy to share, but it's just create a poster of what you would do as mayor and then very ceremonial prize of getting to come and bang the gavel to open our meeting. And then our winner goes on to state where it's like a $500 worth prize. So it's usually for all the way up through high school, but because of the time frame we have, we're doing just the elementary, which is 4th and 5th graders. And so information of that will be coming out sooner than later because of time frame. But do we motion to adjourn? Or do we-
Yep, and I will make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
No, sorry. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
We leave it there.
We leave this here.
Okay.